My name is David Okwi, and I'm the shop manager here at Oduka. Our vision is really to bring technology closer to the people, closer to you, tech that you can afford, tech that lasts, tech that is durable, and tech that you can use to simplify your life. My inspiration behind starting Oduka came from the fact that I've been blogging or writing about tech for the past 10 years, but the stuff that I've been writing about has not been locally available in the market. So what we did is, let's bring this technology to the people. So we really had to start a store, an actual store that you can order today and then have the product delivered to you tomorrow. So currently we launched with mobile accessories. Think a car phone charger, car phone mount, iPhone charger, micro USB, Type-C, charging accessories like this power extension here with 4 ports that you can use to charge your phone, as well as the other ports for appliances. We test our products and make sure that they're up to standard. We vet our suppliers. We don't just get any supplier. Other than the fact that COVID-19 has forced you to sell online, there are very many advantages why you should do that. One of the advantages is the convenience that you're bringing to your customers. 2 is that you have a wide market that expands beyond your working clients. We intend to grow, to bring more tech, to bring tech to the everyday user out there, and to bring really good tech. In order to do that, we intend to scale our product categories and to also cement our position as a leader in electronic products.
Fitness Junction would love to thank you for your continued support and patience during these trying times. With the ongoing pandemic, we have come up with different standards of operation that can keep you safe and keep us safe. Come have a quick tour with me.
Welcome back to the CEO Bench on this Friday morning right here in Kampala, straight to the world. My name is Eddie Okela, and of course in the studio with the former Executive Director of Kampala Capital City Authority, Andrew Chitaka. Andrew, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Eddie.
And this is called a bench. It's meant for the CEOs, and you will not see us quite very excited because we want to take you on a journey of understanding many things that happen.
Correct.
Just before we went to a break, Andrew, you had given us a clear picture of what the plans are, what we call here the future focused into, the city of Kampala.
Correct. Yeah.
This program deals with change management. Change management has 5 steps.
Yeah.
And these 5 steps means planning, organizing ourselves to move forward, looking at the things that we need to do, and 4, looking at the people that we have, a human resource, are they ready to move forward? And 5, do they understand what we're talking about? The new administration that came into Kampala City Authority from KCCA and into the foray of Kampala Capital City Authority,
Yes.
which was led by Madam Jennifer Musisi and a number of you, the directors. Was that change really managed properly? From the government point of view to the team that came in, did we manage the change properly? Was that change clearly communicated? We saw a lot of fighting from the city dwellers with the authority at some point. Was a huge gap in between there, and some of the beautiful things that you're talking about here was difficult to be implemented in the past or at the beginning when you just started. Along the way it started settling down, but Jennifer Musisi was going on, you were coming in as an acting ED, and at the same time you were the director for engineering.
Yes.
Many of the changes we're talking about actually spring out from your docket.
Correct.
Were these changes managed both from internally and externally, in your view?
Well, strictly this would be my view.
Yeah.
Other people could have different views, but I'm thinking that internally the change that happened at KCCA was long overdue. At KCC,
Okay.
it was long overdue. The institution had lost a lot of credibility. Even the building where it was residing itself was in a sorry state. There was lack of trust. They could not attract any funding from development partners. Government had kind of given up on them because of the track record. So the change that happened there to bring on KCCA was long overdue. Of course, any change will bring about impacts. They have to be impacts. It can impact you positively or negatively.
Yeah.
You see? So those that were impacted negatively, well, it's inevitable. It's inevitable. And I don't think there was a program to kind of talk to them, counsel them, especially the staff of KCC then.
Yeah.
I don't think that was there, so maybe that is a shortcoming that in future organizations that are changing should get to know about and prepare for it, because these are people who also have, looking at the institution as their future. That's where they are earning their living. They have families, so there needs to be that change management, counseling, and maybe advising them on how they can retool themselves for the field outside. So that wasn't done, but creating KCCA definitely helped Kampala City. Now, with regards to the population outside, now these are people, the city dwellers, who are used to so many, to their way of life, which may not necessarily be legal. They were used to doing so many illegal things, okay, like street vending, like parking on pavements, like littering. So many things were happening in the city. And I think if we are to go out on a sensitization program, it would take years probably for the message to get home that we need to change behavior. So we didn't have much time. So the enforcement had to start immediately, because the laws are there against all these practices. The laws are there. So KCCA had to start enforcement urgently. while also telling the people to desist from these bad practices. So the people actually were heavily impacted upon, and they had to react by resisting, by protesting and all that. But after some time it leveled out, and they soon understood that KCCA means business, and that what we were doing was wrong. But of course, there's also the other side of it, in that as we had already talked about, the informal sector is so big in Kampala. People don't have formal jobs, and that is their livelihood. So if you're removing them from the streets, where are you taking them? That was the other challenge. Yes. How are they going to survive? So during that time, we tried very much to create space in the markets. We tried very much to educate people on how else they can earn a living. We actually tried even to teach them how they can start cottage industries, like growing mushrooms in homes, making soap. Actually, right now, many people are making liquid soap in their homes. We try to tell them how they can utilize their small spaces for agriculture. A space just as big as this room can grow enough vegetables for your home. And we have a demonstration. We had a demonstration farm at Chanja. It is still there. It's still going strong. So
is it open to anyone to come in?
It is open to anyone on a working day. You just need to go there, and you'll be taken on a tour. You can learn how to grow vegetables in your backyard. You can learn how to keep pigs without the offensive smell. There's good technology there which can help you. Even fish farming, a lot of things are going on there. So we tried to teach people on alternative ways of survival. But of course the numbers are huge. The numbers are huge. There needs to be many more programs, not only by KCCA but the entire government, to see how to employ people in different sectors. More markets are being built, of course. Busega is being built. Kamocha is being built. Chitintali. So they will absorb some
These
people.
These are all to absorb the people who are sales on our streets, to go down to the market.
To go into the markets. But there's this other mentality of people. You know, we have that mentality that you need to sell closest to the where the person passes.
Where the road walking, I'm almost stepping on their clothes. I'm almost stepping on their product.
Exactly. Where they see pedestrians passing, or even cars passing, that's where they want to create the market. And even us, the road users, encourage it. Because you'll find so many motorists at traffic junctions putting down their windshields and calling for butunda, some oranges, and they buy them. So if people were not buying from them, they wouldn't be there. Similarly on the streets, people are walking by, then he says, oh, at home I don't have onions. Then they buy onions on the streets. So we do not yet have this culture of saying that things are bought from the market or from the supermarket. That is where I can only get them. Okay, we encourage this business, and that's why they come on the street. Andrew, so there's still a lot of work to do in that area.
The laws are quite clear about this. Why is it that Kampala Capital City Authority, either under Jennifer or under your administration or leadership, was not able to sort of like look at these problems that we're looking at and see how to deal with it? Why do we continue to have these people on the streets day in, day out, and we don't seem to see a deliberate effort to either educate them? I don't quite believe that we should be arresting them all the time, because we keep arresting them, they keep coming back, which is a clear manifestation that the corruption within the city, law enforcement and the people itself, and in our system in general, is quite high. Because if I am picked, and then before I enter the court, I am out, then tomorrow I am back on the street again, the same person. What is the explanation for that? Why is it that there have not been a deliberate effort to see that we actually start a program that educates these people to try sort of like look at the attitude and perception of the people who sell on the streets that keeps messing up some of the infrastructures we put in place to try and make our city better? Why has there not been that kind of arrangement?
Actually, There has been some effort in that direction.
Okay.
Maybe it hasn't been enough because of the size of the problem.
Yes.
And KCCA alone may not be able to tackle it. It needs firm support of the political leadership in the country, because educating alone will not solve the problem. I may come and you educate me, but if you haven't provided for me alternative space, I'll still come back. I'll know that, well, I'm doing something that is not right, but where can I go? Do I have some entandikwa to start up something? So I think government programs now, like the Mioka, which is coming up, plus others which we've had before, they may help in helping people transition from that street business to some other kind of business. So it's a problem bigger than KCCA. I know they will continue to educate them, but they need that bigger support from the central government and the political support mostly. Because there are so many laws that are in place, but implementing them may cause a lot of social unrest. That's why they've been put, in abeyance for the time being. So government needs to support KCCA to deal with some of these big things. For example, we had prepared a plan for border borders. We had looked at all the stages all over the city. Some of them are stationed in dangerous places. People can easily be knocked, the border borders themselves. And we had identified the places which can be gazetted for a border stage. And there was a plan to create a proper stage with a shelter so that borders can continue to operate, but in an organized manner. We had also created a map indicating these locations where they can be. We had also created a border free zone in the middle of the city where there would be no stage. So all these things had been done, but again, it would lead to loss of so many stages, meaning that those people now need to be supported to go into some other business. So, and this is what I'm talking about. KCCA needs to work very well with the other arms of government to tackle these problems.
Change management, Andrew, is not an easy process for people of greater heights in leadership like you. How are you managing it going forward?
That's a mouthful, eh? Well, yes, it is. When you grow in your career and reach at the top of an institution, the next move is exit. It is exit. You cannot again hope that some other higher post will be created for you so that you can stay in. No, once you reach the top, the next move is exiting. So it has to be in your mind that sometime I have to move out of this, but life has to continue. So for me, as an engineer, I've been quite active in the engineering fraternity. I served on the engineering registration board, the board that regulates engineering. I served there for 6 years. I've been active in the Uganda Institution of Professional Engineers. So my networks in the engineering field are quite wide, and I think there are quite a number of opportunities there for providing consultancy services, and that is what I'm looking at. I'm still open to serve government if the opportunity arises, but that's what I'm looking at, and that is what brings me satisfaction. I want to take you straight to my next question as we listen towards the end of the interview. Question number 7. City Hall receives quite a huge change from the time you and others, entered the City Hall. And the city of Kampala benefited a lot from many of the leadership strides that were seen from your time during the CC time and your time. But we now begin to see a drift back to KCCA days with a number of potholes on our roads, and Kampala people are now crying, asking, Musisi, where are you? I'm sure it's just a matter of time before they start asking, where is Engineer Chitaka? Because
why are we going back? Why are we seeing this drift back? You have just walked out of City Hall. Could that explain the reason why you decided to throw in the towel as an engineer? Because I think KCCA still needed you in that department, pretty much even more than would be in the directorate office. I mean, in the executive director. Yes, because this is actually really some serious area of development in our city.
Well, I personally think 9 years is quite a long time in an institution. And that's the time I spent in KCCA.
Yes.
And I've always known that the transformation of Kampala will not start and end with one person. This is something that many have to contribute to, okay? But I remember that when I was there, the challenge of potholes was quite big. We didn't have enough money to repair all the roads. But the strategy was that we need to keep ahead of them, at least. A stitch in time, keeps nine. So, because you are torn between two. You either leave the road to go to the dogs and become impassable as you wait for the big money to redo it completely, or you patch it in time, it remains motorable, and then the big money finds you there and you repair it. So we chose the latter, and we said, okay, we don't have enough money, but at least let us be ahead of these potholes. When the money finally comes, because government has many priorities, as you know, when the money finally comes, it will come, we'll rehabilitate the roads, and then we shall be free of these potholes. We shall maybe only do minimum maintenance for about 10-15 years to come, until that time when we have to overhaul them again. So most of the roads in Kampala long outlived their design life. Some of them were built in the 60s, some even in the 50s. So it's actually a miracle that they've spent this long. So we had actually prepared a project for looking at now the tarmac roads, but which are in sorry state, which require a lot of repetitive maintenance. We had prepared a project of that kind. If it receives government's blessings, then the new team should implement it and repair all the potholed roads. It's something ready already in KCCA. So I think what needs to be done now is to improve the state of readiness to patch these potholes as they come. Yeah, there are many mechanisms you can use. You can have framework contracts whereby any potholes that come, you quickly call in a contractor to go and repair it, or you bring on your in-house team to repair it, depending on how big it is and the technicalities involved. So you could use those framework contracts to address those potholes that come up here and there.
Okay. Yeah. I have a question from David Okwi. Is an electrical engineer, and he says engineers solves problems while politicians create them. How does he reconcile the switch? Ask engineer Andrew Chitaka to respond to that.
What switch is he talking about? I didn't switch from engineering to politics.
It seems to, most people seem to think that you switched from being an engineer to politics. That's why we have many potholes now in Kampala. No, you became a political leader as opposed to a technical leader in that aspect. So if I understand what David Okwi is saying, engineers solve problems while politicians create them all often. How does engineer Chitaka, how does he reconcile the switch between the two?
Well, when I was acting ED, actually most people were mistaking me for a politician. But it's actually a technical job.
And I want you to address that to the camera, because many of these guys believe that.
The job of ED at KCCA is a technical job. It's a technical job, but as you know, as you grow higher in your career, you tend to be more of a manager than actually someone who is in the works, doing the actual work. So you have to interface with politicians. That's why sometimes you are taken to be a politician, whereas not. But it's very important to explain to politicians what is required for things to happen.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
And you also need to understand their point of view.
Yeah.
Because politicians, they think in terms of their term of office.
Yes.
Today I'm there.
Yes.
Next time someone else may be voted in and I'm out. So what will I have to show in my time?
Yeah.
So you also need to be sensitive to their concerns.
Okay.
They want to show impact in a short time. So you need to plan together. Tell them what is possible and what is not. Okay? But then I think they've probably not been very helpful in looking for funding. Because whereas you, the technical person, you are busy making plans, preparing designs, you cannot at the same time be the same person looking for the money.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So they need to do more advocacy to get the money into KCCA so that these people can can do their work.
Correct.
Without undue stress. So they haven't been very helpful in that, and I think they need to do better. Okay? Yeah.
Andrew, I have another question here coming from Russ, is a URA official, of course, up at the border. He says, Edio Killer, thank you very much. Please ask that engineer, how do you explain the terrible quality of road repairs instead of the replacement, other than the kickback culture in the road construction and repair bridging process?
Well, I think that touches on what I mentioned before. When a road is designed, it is designed for a certain period. It is supposed to serve a certain period. Now, when that period passes, it starts requiring a lot of maintenance. It's like an old shirt or trouser. Something, it gets a hole here, you repair it, then another one comes here. So to a person who uses the road, you'll always see people repairing. Some of them may not be the same potholes, but they keep repairing. The effort is to ensure the road keeps motorable. But in actual fact, what is needed is total revamping, total reconstruction.
Okay.
Of course, total reconstruction requires a lot of money.
Yes.
So if you don't have the money, what do? Should you stop patching it and wait for the big money? Or you should continue patching it until you get enough money? Look at the situation of someone renting a house. You've just finished your school, you've gotten a job, the money isn't so much, but you want to become independent, you go and rent a house. Of course, you know that you are paying money to the landlord, and maybe over 10 years, the money you've paid could build you a new house. But you don't have yet the big money to build your own house. You have to continue paying the landlord until that time comes, either when you get a loan or something, that you build the new house. So you are in a catch-22 situation. So that is why. But of course, instances of poor quality, I cannot rule them out, because some of the contractors doing this work, if not supervised well, may do poor quality. So it calls on the KCCA staff to properly supervise these contractors. And also, when you use your in-house teams, there is a tendency to be kind to yourselves. That after all, what are they going to do to us? We are KCCA. We have repaired this pothole. Even if we come back and it has failed, there is no monetary, penalty that you are going to receive. For a contractor, there is a penalty, but for an in-house team, there is tendency to be complacent. So the in-house teams also need to be as serious. The kind of scrutiny you put on a contractor, you must also put it on your in-house team to make sure they do a good job.
Wow. We're almost hastening up towards the end of this program, and of course we're going to let Andrew leave the studio and go back to work. I have quite a number of them. I want to sample some of the questions coming from the diaspora. This one says, Edio Killer, thank you very much for that program. I think we need to have more of these kind of programs on our television, as opposed to the usual politicians talking a lot of nonsense on our television, flooded with so much people without information and speaking so much that they can't deliver. I particularly My name is Dennis. Sending this. I'm watching this show from the US. It's quite late for me, but I think I like what Andrew Chitaka is saying. But I have a problem. Andrew needs to respond to this. 9 years of his time at Kampala Capital City Authority, he's talked about so much business coming in, so much money being given to us to repair the roads. Why is it that we don't see this coming? And when we fix the roads, we often don't make very good decisions. Case in point, the road where I have built, which falls under his administration, the recent one in Kulambiro, too many humps on the road, small humps, and now it's destroying our shocks. As an engineer who has lived and worked in Netherlands, what does he have to say about those humps that are usually placed on the road that becomes an irritable part of the residents that live on that road? Andrew, that's Dennis coming from the US.
Thank you very much for that question.
Yeah.
You know, when a road is designed, it is for a certain purpose.
Yeah.
Now, a road like Kulambiro Road, it's actually in a residential area.
Correct.
Most of that area is built up. It's not a highway. It's not a high-speed road like you would look at the Entebbe Expressway or the Northern Bypass. This is a road with a lot of frontage, a lot of on and off movements. So you cannot have high speed on that road. The unfortunate thing is that when the road was built, the speeds went up so much. People enjoyed it so much, the drivers, and they forgot about other road users. We have pedestrians there. We have people who have been used to an environment of very low speed, very few vehicles on their dirt road. They can cross the road at any point. So immediately you open the road, the speeds go up and people are knocked dead. We don't want to have that. So actually the speeds went up very much on Kulambiro Ring Road, and now the demand for humps went up. The residents were up in arms. They said, oh, we need humps here, we need humps there. But of course we didn't put them indiscriminately everywhere. The design already had humps and rumble strips, those ones which do
the ones which destroys our cars the most.
Maybe he's talking about those rumble strips.
Yes.
The design already had locations which should have those humps and rumble strips. For example, schools, churches, sharp corners. We had to put those things there. Because now, you may serve the car owner by removing the humps or not putting them there in that case, but then you'll be killing people. So there's a section of the public which doesn't drive, but they also need a safe environment. So we had to balance the two. Of course, the rumble strip is quite rough on a car, but if constructed properly, it is not supposed to be like that. Actually, with time they settle a bit, such that you feel it in your car, but it doesn't damage your shocks. And it's necessary, because should there be no rumble strip and you hit a hump without any warning, the rumble strip is supposed to warn you that there's a hump ahead. So if you hit a hump without any warning, it can be catastrophic. Your car can actually fly off the road. So they have to come together. So he should get accustomed to driving at a slow speed on that road. Maybe a speed, residential area is usually 30 kilometers. Between 50 and 30, instead of driving at 80. Okay, then you'll not have any problem.
All right. All right, so I'm going to sample too many of these questions, but I want to sample another one. The dude said, I'm watching the show from Australia. Thank you very much. My name is Dennis. Originally from Gulu, now living in Australia. I lived in Kampala for some time, and I moved to Australia just about the time Jennifer Musisi was taking over Kampala. It was a good thing. Initially, we didn't see that team, that included Andrew Chitaka, were really serious, because Kampala had lived in the wrong for so long that the good was coming and were fighting it. Now we are crying of them. But it's even getting more serious that the serious brain like Chitaka are leaving City Hall, moving somewhere else, yet he talks of bigger projects coming. Was it being forced out because they want to bring incompetent people in so they can eat the money? Can you ask Andrew, why is it that our junctions that we said we are going to fix and the flyovers in Kampala have not been put in place, and yet he seems to be the most refined engineer of our time leaving City Hall at the time when we need it most. Somebody is asking about the flyovers. What happened to our flyovers?
I think he has a point, and I think he has been keenly following issues in Kampala.
Yes.
Well, the flyover project, first and foremost, is a project being executed by UNRA. UNRA is the implementing agency, but KCCA, because it's under the jurisdiction of KCCA, it is on the implementing committee. Now, that project had an implementing period of 3 years, the Clock Tower and Zambia Road section. And I think maybe, could be that 2 of them have gone. I am informed that they lost a lot of time because of the relocation of utilities and some land compensation issues. But I think that the quality of contractor they have and the consultant are going to deliver that project. They are going to, I don't know exactly the timelines how they are now, but I'm very sure that project is going to be delivered, and the traffic jam at Clock Tower, Katwe Road, ShopRite will be no more. It could be possible that within next year it is going to be delivered, and then they'll also be starting on the phase 2, which covers the rest of Mukwano Road. You know, Zambia Road and Mukwano Road are going to be widened to 4 lanes. And it will go to Mukwano roundabout. There will be a flyover there, Kitgum Junction, a flyover, Nakumat roundabout, or Garden City, and then also Wampeo roundabout. So you'll find that that area, which is always congested, you're going to have roads above, which are going to take away most of the through moving traffic, and then they leave the roads down for the local traffic. It's going to happen. It's a pity these things take quite long. Of course, it's being funded by JICA. It's a project funded by a development partner. Now, these development partners also have the cycle in which they do things. It's not like getting money from the consolidated fund and you do something. That will be faster. But they also have certain steps you follow to be able to access money from their fund. So we have to follow those steps. You have to do everything according to their guidelines, and then you'll have the money to do that. They are going to do it. The junctions, as I told you, again, they are helping us to fund the improvement of a number of junctions, 30 of them. Under the ADB project, about 23 are going to be done. Right now, I think there are about 14 being done under the World Bank project. You can imagine, by the time we came into KCCA 2011, this entire city of almost 4 million people during day, it had only 9 junctions signalized. So how much control do you have over traffic with just 9 junctions? Some of them not even working properly. I've been to a number of cities when we were preparing that project for the junctions. We went to quite a number of Japanese cities to look at the model that best suits Kampala. And we went to a city like Tokyo. The traffic control center of Tokyo is so huge that they control maybe about 18,000 junctions in the city. And it was clearly way beyond our capacity. We are not, we don't need it yet. We went to another city of, I think it was Nagoya, very huge. And we had to find a city which had similar characteristics to Kampala. And then that is the kind of control center we are prepared to manage in the city, and that is what is being designed. So the level of control of traffic that we had in Kampala was so low for the number of vehicles that we have. Even the infrastructure was of very low grade. So how many traffic police will you deploy at all those junctions without signals? You can't have that manpower. So we need to automate these things. These things are coming. I agree that that was Mr. Okwi. Dennis in Australia. I agree that things are taking quite long. But I think it would help if KCCA publicized all these programs and gave to the public the timelines under which they are going to happen. They are surely going to happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we are coming to the end of the show, and we surely really need to have Andrew go. The show is for 1 hour, and somebody saying, thank you very much. I'll follow just that last bit. My name is James. I follow the last bit of Andrew talking beautiful plans. But why is it our things always start to come out when the people are out of office? Andrew is now giving us information. Now, we needed this more of him when he was there as the acting ED. Maybe this would have gotten him, you know, confirmed as the ED. But that's my comment. Good to hear from you, Andrew. We need to do more of this. Now that you are out, what would be your best advice as a man who was at the helm of developing most of the infrastructure in Kampala City today? Can you ask Andrew that question, Eddie Okela?
Well,
they're saying now that you are out.
Now that I'm out.
Yes. Looking from outside into inside and what you have left there.
Looking from outside, I think that KCCA needs a lot of support. They still need a lot of support from the central government. I know the institution was created to be self-sustaining, but it is not yet there. Their institution's main source of income comes from property rates, the money they charge to property owners, then trading license, and then maybe to some extent the advertising. It's not the level of revenue they get, cannot even do a road. The most they can do is maybe collect some garbage in the city and maybe pay salaries, things like that. So they still need a lot of support. But also, I think there needs to be a program to educate people that more taxation is needed in the city for it to be self-sustaining. Most of the cities we visited, they have huge budgets, but most of the money is generated by the city itself. So they need to have that that ability to do things on their own instead of waiting always for government to come in with a grant or waiting for a development partner to give you some money. For example, at one point we were thinking of congestion charging. It was still a concept then. It needs to be developed to be realized. But I think that if everybody who used the roads in Kampala paid a small fraction of money towards their maintenance or towards their further development or towards development of good public transport. All cities have good public transport. The trains are working in many cities, the trams, good bus services. If we can have good public transport out of money generated by the city itself, then it is going to draw away so many people from the roads. You would be comfortable to park your car at home and go and pick a bus, go and pick a train, and move comfortably. Reduce the pollution levels. Okay, so there needs to be such big plans for raising revenue in Kampala. Otherwise, we shall always complain about potholes. Why are you doing repetitive work? But if there is no money to rehabilitate, then that is what you are going to see all the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Andrew, this is your last question, but this one says, no, wait. We the people of Chitebi, I'm even laughing right now when Andrew says we need to pay more money. Ask Andrew, do we continue to pay more money and people keep squandering and the roads continue to remain the same? What mechanism do we have in place to make sure that the taxes we actually pay to Kampala Capital City Authority is not diverted like we always hear, and then often not, they have no money in their coffers to continue building. Recently we've seen all the money being diverted to Parliament, so they have to go to Parliament and get money. How are they going to do it? Anyway, that's a story for another day, but ask Andrew whether there is a system in place to do that. In summary, I don't want you to let Andrew Chitaka go before he can answer the question of Chitebi. For 9 years, even more, KCC has been dumping garbage in Chitebi. The road leading to Chitebi, where they dump things from Kalerwe and that part, has a lot of potholes heavy like a grave. Some can even bury a car, and KCA moves there every day. These are actually caused by KCA trucks that dump things there. Andrew, as the Director of Engineering and a former Executive Director of City Hall, why is that road, this particular road, not fixed all your time?
Well, thank you very much. I think the road he's talking about is Chitezi.
Chitezi, yes.
And not Chitebi.
Yes.
Because Chitebi is getting a brand new road.
I think he actually meant Chitezi because that's where the dumping is.
That's where the dumping is. That is true. There are plans to do that road. And actually it's going to be done to link up with the Unura Road, which can take you actually from Pelere up to, I think it should be Matuga. Yeah, that side. Okay. The plans are there. It is true the road is in a sorry state, and it's actually beyond patching. So KCA should be in better position to answer when it's going to be done. I'm out of there. I cannot speak for them on this one. Yes. But the plan is there.
Yes.
However, with regard to funding, I think there are mechanisms in place to keep the taxpayers' money safe. All the money that is collected from the people is well accounted for. During my time and during the time before I became acting ED, KCCA got unqualified audit reports by the Auditor General. So the money is well accounted for, but it is not much, it's not enough. Secondly, for us to get money, you cannot avoid Parliament. Parliament appropriates money to all government institutions. So by going there, it doesn't mean that money has been diverted to Parliament and then I have to ask them again for it. So they are the ones who appropriate money. In fact, before Parliament approves the national budget, you can't spend. You can't spend. So let him rest assured that the road is going to be done. The road to Chitezi will be done. But as far as timelines are concerned, I think the people in KCCA now are better positioned to tell him when.
All right, and finally, what next for Engineer Andrew Chitaka going forward? Andrew, we've come to the end of this. What next for Engineer Chitaka going forward? Somebody is saying, can he give us the road? He speaks very profoundly. Can he give us a model road in Kampala? Anyway, of his choice, and we support him. How do we help him to give us to enjoy some of those Netherlands experience he's talking about? But for me right here, finally, Andrew, what is next for Engineer Andrew Chitaka going forward, moving out of City Hall? What are you going to do next as a leader?
Well, first of all, in my private capacity, as I said, I'm looking towards offering consultancy services, but I would like to still be active in the affairs of Kampala and in government. So I'm still available to serve if called upon. I think that I can share a lot of experiences and offer a lot of advice to many institutions that are going through change, and also to engineering projects going on in the country. I am ready to serve on that. And I also want to thank whoever is asking how can we help Andrew Chitaka. Thank you for those kind sentiments. I'm ready to serve, and I think given my experience, I should be able to move on in my profession. Thank you.
Well, you've heard it from Andrew right there. Thank you very much for being part of the show. You've had the final word from Andrew Chitaka. He's still ready to serve, and he's still ready to, give and offer his services, professional services to the city of Kampala, and of course to the government of Uganda, where and when he's called upon. But at the moment, he's definitely going to go into private consultancy, and I think that's the best way to do. When you serve, move out as a leader, step back, look at it from outside, and see if there's something that you can help improve from inside. This has been the CEO Bench on change management and what next for a leader going forward. You've heard it from Andrew Chitaka right there. I'm going to ask Andrew, Any final words to the young people there, engineers who don't know how to make it, struggling to make it, don't know what to do and how to do it? Can you share that as you go?
Well, first of all, thank you for viewing this program. But I want to tell all young engineers that it is very, very important to be professional in their fields. Once you excel in what you are doing, a point will come where you'll not be the one looking for the jobs, but the jobs will be looking for you. So be professional, be alert with what is going on in the industry, and also register with the Uganda Institution of Professional Engineers and the Engineers Registration Board, and that way you'll be able to benefit from the wider engineering fraternity, so that you can grow in your career and be able to earn well. Thank you very much for viewing this program, but I remain at your disposal. In case you want to contact me, you can always contact me and I'll offer you some good advice. Thank you. Okay.
Well, thank you very much. You've heard it from Engineer Andrew Chitaka right there, the former Acting Executive Director of KCCA, but also the Director of Engineering at City Hall. Many of the roads that we're talking about in Kampala and many of the infrastructure we're talking about in Kampala City have passed through his hands. And I think that we can still get a lot from Andrew Chitaka. Outgoing Executive Director, now he's a private man going into private consultancy. Please reach out to him and we'll be able to share as much as possible if you reach out to us for his contacts. We don't give that on air for everyone, but you can write to us, houseoftalenttv@gmail.com, if you want anything, houseoftalenttv@gmail.com, and we'll be able to give you contacts to Engineer Andrew Chitaka. Otherwise, it's been the CEO Bench, change management, leadership, and what next. Until next time, we'll be right back with another guest that is a surprise for you. Stay blessed and have a good afternoon or good morning or good night from wherever you are. Edio Killer, Engineer Andrew Chitaka. It's a wrap on the CEO Bench. People at the moment are struggling to understand the older generation because times have changed. Technology has come in.
They've moved on.
Yes.
We're the ones sitting back and wondering, what is my child on to? TikTok has surpassed WhatsApp. The other one I call, I never call it Facebook, it's Bookface. Why are you on Bookface? Dad, it's Facebook.
Yes.
Me, I keep saying, I have a foot amongst the millennials.
Yeah.
And I understand the traditionalists.
Okay.
There's a song in the 60s, by the way, and in the 90s, 70s, where they're like, parents don't understand.
Yes.
Remember Prince?
Yes.
Prince.
I've been in Uganda for very many years, and I believe Uganda is the place anybody should aspire to live in. We have good weather, we have abundance of food, we have abundance of employment as long as you look out for the right things. But Uganda has been hit in recent times with a stigma of greed, and it shows in everything that we read in the newspapers. It shows on television. It shows even when you're sitting down with people just trying to make ends meet. Everybody wants to bite off a piece that's bigger than what they deserve. That is Uganda's major problem in my eyes. If only we could curb the greed, if only we could share out that pie equally and of course responsibly, then we will be the best country on the planet. In the next 5 years, I really wish and hope that Ugandans can look at the bigger picture, can look at Uganda as a country, can look at their neighbors, their friends, and see that everybody needs equal opportunity. Because in the next 5 years, I don't want people to be calling me up saying, please, can you find me a job? I want people to be calling me up and saying, would you like to come and work with me? That is what I'd like to see. In the next 50 years, I don't want to see my child suffering. I want to see him prosperous. I want to see him with a good wife, with children, with a family of his own, living the dream. That's what I would like to see in Uganda. That's my honest opinion. And I'm Mark Kaheru, I'm Ugandan. What do you say?
Young people at the moment are struggling to understand the older generation because times have changed. Technology has come in.
They've moved on.
Yes.
We're the ones sitting back and wondering, what is my child on to? TikTok has surpassed WhatsApp. The other one I call, I never call it Facebook, it's book face. Why are you on book face? Dad, it's Facebook.
Yes.
Me, I keep saying, I have a foot amongst the millennials.
Yeah.
And I understand the traditionalists.
Okay.
There's a song in the 60s, by the way, and in the 90s, 70s, where they're like, parents don't understand.
Yes.
Remember Prince?
Yes.
Prince.
Welcome to the Elders Wisdom Circle. My name is Eddie Okila, straight out of Kampala, the Pearl of Africa, to the rest of the world. We are serving the elders and the wisdom of the elders to the young. How are you all doing? All the followers and everyone who loves to chill and rock and roll with the elders. Welcome to the show. You will probably find this show very boring if you do not want to hear from the elders. If you're one of those people who say, they get into my nuts, they run me crazy, you don't know. Do not actually know what you're missing. You don't know how important is or are elders in our life. Sharing the heart of the elders at 54 years of age is the one and only Jaffa Raymond Amin, the son of the former President Idi Amin Dada. And just before we bring Jaffa on the show, I would like to tell you that the Elders Wisdom Circle on this day is very special. And the topic is, I am because we are, the cultural wholesomeness of sharing and caring for each other is very important going forward. Ladies and gentlemen, before I talk about the Ubuntu, I would like to bring the one and only, the son of the former president, Idi Amin Dada, the third born son, the man with the wisdom of Amin, the man with the secret box of the former president, Idi Amin Dada. Jaffa, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
It's a pleasure.
And today, contrary, you're dressed like Baba.
This is Senator. Senator. But I tend to like the ones from Ghana.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a good shop.
Okay.
At Victoria Mall.
Yes.
And another one at Mabirizi. They always take care of me. Senator.
Yes. And we would like to say welcome to the Elders Wisdom Circle.
Thank you.
And we want to start with, first of all, I know we talked about it, the celebration around the former president of Tanzania and the things that he has said. Today on the show, we are seeing people celebrating when he says, get out of your comfort zone and go and work.
Wonderful.
And people are like, this is coming from the president. There are a lot of mixed reactions about the man, but actually he was a man of character, a man.
He was a driven. He was driven.
Yes.
And the drivenness, we don't ask this for everyone, but he had been suffering for 25 years with a heart problem.
Yeah.
So he understood that his life was finite.
Yes.
The fact that somebody can appreciate that life is finite and we are not immortal gives you that drive.
Wow.
So when you look back at his 6 years and what he accomplished, you just have to salute the man. I was listening to Lumumba, Professor Lumumba, and he was, I thought I was articulate, but Professor Lumumba, Lord have mercy. That Kenyan is as articulate as they come.
Yes.
A true African elder with a PhD to boot.
Wow. Well, Jaffa, I think that listening to all our elders and what has happened in Tanzania has been able to teach us a lot more. And if you're young and under the age of 40, 30, 25, 20, you need to be involved in the matters of our society, of our nation, going forward without having to insult the elders. You need to go to the elders and actually seek wisdom from the elders.
And have a conversation with them. But speaking to power.
Yes.
Because ordinarily in society, they are the purveyors of responsibility.
Absolutely true. Jaffa today on the show, and everyone joining us from all across the world, we're live on Twitter, we're live on Facebook, we're live on our YouTube channel, and we would like to say thank you very much for being a part of the Elders Wisdom Circle, growing bigger and better every single day, touching lives all around us and bringing the healing of our elders to our generation all across the world. And to all our African brothers, the stories of elders in Kampala, in Uganda, in East Africa is the same in Ghana, is the same in West Africa, is the same in Central Republic, is the same in South Africa, is the same in North Africa. We must continue to be connected with the elders. I want to say this, Jaffa, that in the world today, Africa continues to remain the place with the preservative, true, authentic, preservative nature of nuclear family.
Thank you very much.
And Africa is still holding that mantle.
The wholesomeness.
Yes. Of the nuclear family is still holding in Africa. What does that make you feel like?
Very proud, very affectionate about it. And I refuse to make the mistake the missionaries tried to instill in us, whether Arab or European, of learning to hate thyself. That's why I gave that beginning.
Yes. Yes, and I want to go through that. I am because we are the cultural awesomeness of sharing information and sharing ideas.
Once you accept who you are,
it
is very hard for somebody to come and actually try to unhinge you from having that culture of sharing. You can have that drive to succeed, but it should never become the selfishness that we call the religiousness of narcissism.
Wow.
You know?
Yes.
Which is overwhelming us people at political level, at family level. The minute you hear a hint from your wife, you're selfish, what you did was selfish.
Yeah.
You pull back and realize you have to get back to what is, read that statement again.
Yes, and the statement is, I am because we are cultural awesomeness of sharing. Yeah.
But that part at the beginning.
Yeah, it's very important. And I think that elders should not stop their role of continuous education, continuous imparting of knowledge to the young going forward. That said, Jaffa, and to everyone out there, I would want to take you to the spirit of Ubuntu.
Yeah.
An anthropologist showed a game to the children of an African tribe.
Once upon a time.
Once upon a time, as he stated. And he placed a basket of delicious fruits near a tree trunk and told them, the first child to reach the tree will get the basket.
In the spirit of competition.
Yes.
We always think competition is good, but listen.
Including when he gave them the start signal. He was surprised that they were walking together holding hands until they reached the tree and shared the fruit.
The unexpected. When they look at savages and they see an almost angelic, unexpected goodness, wholesomeness.
Wow.
That was the moment of truth.
Yes. And when he asked them, why you did that when every one of you could get the basket only for him?
Self. I'd rather add for himself.
Yes, for himself.
That selfish thing.
Yes, and they answered with astonishment, Ubuntu.
They were actually shocked.
Yes.
How can a white man not even understand this? At the bedrock of values, of morality.
Yeah.
Ubuntu. My tribe says Mutu when we're talking about Mutu.
Yes,
we say Mutu. I say Mutu Laga.
Yes.
That man. Which is the same thing as Ubuntu.
Yes.
You know, languages are universal.
Yes. And we got 54 dialect in Africa, and so really
in Uganda.
In Uganda alone, and so if Uganda alone has 54, if you put
half
together,
of them are Bantu.
Yes.
Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.
Yeah.
And that's the spirit. And so he went to say that is how. And so he says that's how. That is how can one of us be happy while the rest are miserable?
Remember, they're shocked
at
the immorality of the question, and they're answering it.
And they said, Ubuntu in their civilization means I am because we are together in it.
That's sharing.
Yes. I want to say this, that the indigenous people knows the secret of happiness that has been lost in all societies that transcend them and which considers themselves civilized society.
And they look down at us.
Exactly.
And they look down on us.
Which is what we often refer to as the
But every missionary who comes here finds the spiritual liveliness and wholesomeness that shames them. The ones who stay learn from it.
And love it.
And love it. But there's some who keep coming and pressing. And they keep fighting about having a better education, but not learning from this story.
Wow.
I've had a similar situation. The first series we did with you, I kept telling you about this business of going to the village boastfully with your 50,000 worth of salt. I call it poisonous salt, poisonous sugar, poisonous processed oil, and feeling great at providing. Lo and behold, when you're returning at the weekends, at the week's end, they give you produce worth 500,000. When you get home and you're really offloading the produce, that Ubuntu, the sense of sharing, the appreciation for that salt, for that sugar, for that processed oil, the rewards are astronomical. And the multiplier effect is Ubuntu at its finest. And that's what actually pressed me to learn about ourselves, because I realized, my God, shame on you. What is your 50 when they can give you 500,000 in a week? Something that will last you probably for 1 month.
Yes.
Not going to Safeway, not going to ShopRite, not going to Game Store, not going to Carrefour, you know?
Yeah.
But organic food that we consider expensive, that's the irony.
Which is actually very expensive.
It is, oh my God. Huh?
So the irony of that
Yes.
is that the ability of our people not to realize
the selfless sharing.
yes, not to realize that what we are sharing selflessly is actually more valuable. It's
Much
because-
more.
Yes, it's
1,000
because
times much more.
the abundance of it here
Yes.
is given to us by the Most High. That the soil
Thank you.
represents.
Do you know how we run away from rain?
Yes.
Some people told me, no, just stand in it and take it, soak it up.
Yes.
It's free. The Almighty gives us that
Yes.
freely. learn that is the sense of sharing.
Yes. That God can say, abundantly I have, and so receive.
And people never talk about this, but I'm bringing a concept to this, and that's the reason I gave you that funny name at the end.
The
African capitalism, where we share while we're gaining.
Yes.
Not the greed, not the narcissism of yanje. I was making people in the taxi laugh. I said the head of state wakes up and goes yanje, a fear of loss.
Yes.
Chimurumira, yange. You wake up a fear of loss.
Yes.
Even the fear of losing your beloved wife to another is a constant. Ubuntu teaches us to relax.
Wow.
Because we have it in abundance.
Yes.
Today we're very spiritual.
Yes, and a deep conversation. I want you to know we're going for a break, and when we come back, Jaffa and I are going to be taking you through for the next 35 minutes of the show. We're going to be talking about the spirit of I am because we are, and the culture of wholesome sharing of the stuff. Like when you go to the village and Jaffa say you give 5 kilos of sugar and you come back with a truck and a trunk full of fresh fruits.
Worth 500,000.
What's the equation right now? We'll be right back after
Ubuntu.
the break. Yes.
The equation is Ubuntu. Sharing.
The elders with the circle will be right back after the break.
I've been in Uganda for very many years, and I believe Uganda is the place anybody should aspire to live in. We have good weather, we have abundance of food, we have abundance of employment as long as you look out for the right things. But Uganda has been hit in recent times with the stigma of greed, and it shows in everything that we read in the newspapers. It shows on television. It shows even when you're sitting down with people just trying to make ends meet. Everybody wants to bite off a piece that's bigger than what they deserve. That is Uganda's major problem in my eyes. If only we could curb the greed, if only we could share out that pie equally and of course responsibly, then we will be the best country on the planet. In the next 5 years, I really wish and hope that Ugandans can look at the bigger picture, can look at Uganda as a country, can look at their neighbors, their friends, and see that everybody needs equal opportunity. Because in the next 5 years, I don't want people to be calling me up saying, please, can you find me a job? I want people to be calling me up and saying, would you like to come and work with me? That is what I'd like to see. In the next 50 years, I don't want to see my child suffering. I want to see him prosperous. I want to see him with a good wife, with children, with a family of his own, living the dream. That's what I would like to see in Uganda. That's my honest opinion. And I'm Mark Kaheru. I'm Ugandan. What do you say?
Young people at the moment are struggling to understand the older generation because times have changed. Technology has come in.
They've moved on.
Yes.
We're the ones sitting back and wondering, what is my child on to? TikTok has surpassed WhatsApp. The other one I call, I never call it Facebook, it's Bookface. Why are you on Bookface? Dad, it's Facebook.
Yes.
Me, I keep saying, I have a foot amongst the millennials.
Yeah.
And I understand the traditionalists.
Okay.
There's a song in the 60s, by the way, and in the 90s, 70s, where they're like, parents don't understand.
Yes.
Remember Prince?
Yes.
Prince.
Welcome back from the break. This is the Elders Wisdom Circle. In the studio is myself, Eddie Okila, and Jaffa Remo Amin, the third born son of Idi Amin Dada. We believe that this man has the wisdom of Amin. We also believe that Amin deposited some of his secrets, deep-seated secrets, on his third born son. Just like Jacob did it to Joseph at some point, and Joseph was the heir to the throne. Could this be the case in Amin's house? Jaffa, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for that one.
So we have to keep trying to break down the mystery behind Amin and you and the family of Amin with our 60 children. We don't know which one, but we seem to be guessing that you could be the best child.
Can I give something to that point?
Yes, yes.
I got pretty angry about our properties not coming back to us.
Yes.
And I was really becoming forceful and wanting to live the high life back in Kololo, you know?
Yes.
But he told me, "De Malta Dunya, these are worldly things." He would say, "These are worldly things."
Yes.
Do you know how that shames you back into your shell? You are going full throttle to become very demanding. You know, I call it the Biaffe syndrome.
Yes.
Demanding. But he was reminding me, these are worldly things.
Wow.
He's the type of person who, when the people had decided that the Cadillac, the expensive cars, they were all parked at Nakasongola. They were loading them onto a Hercules to take them to Libya. He finds out, he said, no. Take those cars out of there. Where are you taking them? Now, others would have loaded them up like the Gambian president. He loaded his cars to exile. He needed his hammer. He needed his Rolls Royce. He needed things. So sometimes my selflessness becomes a hindrance because I learned from the best who learned to let go.
Yes. That said, Jaffa, and we want to discuss the issue of I am because we are. Can you just break this statement to us? Ubuntu keeps saying I am because we are.
Yeah.
Can you just break that up right now for us?
Without that 1%, we wouldn't be. My parents are me. I am my parents. The day I get my degree is the day I start looking down at my parents who sold their goats to take me to school.
Dug themselves.
That is, yeah, that is the moment where instead of embracing them, we tend to start becoming very, for me, I have my books moments. If you can understand, I am me because we are. Yes. That keeps you in check. Me being told by my mother, you like your stepmothers, but I'm your mother. She was basically trying to say, they're classier than I am, but I am your mother. Yeah. Once I get my faith to another level, I shouldn't be acting like an Arab. I am forever African. Comes back to the same statement. I've seen pastors who go for 2 weeks to America and they went to saying God, they come back saying God. 2 weeks of transformation. the day you forget who you are.
The man of God.
I'm like, what happened to Gordy? God!
Yes.
Is he another person?
Yes.
No, we're talking about God. I'm like, you just went 2 weeks. Yeah, but you speak like British. Yes. For me, I'm American. God! Yes. I'm just trying to say that this statement is so important in identity.
Please put that stop. Let's put that up there so that you guys can see it.
I am because we are.
Yeah.
The cultural wholesomeness of sharing comes in you knowing who you are. Those children chasing the chicken just before you set off for Kampala, they bring it with all the, like Chicken George or Rambo. No, who's it? Sylvester Stallone as the boxer. Yes. Rocky chasing the chicken to get it for you so that Eddie gets it back to Kampala. That infinite sense of sharing comes from actually love and acceptance of who you are. Me, that's the reasoning behind that statement.
Wow. Well, you heard it. The story of I am because we are is quite a very important situation right there for us to be able to look into. Jaffa's just broken it up for us. Sometimes we don't understand the elders that you are now a university graduate, but your father sold goats, chicken, cows, rats, everything else to raise the money to take you to school. You are who you are today because of them. How much respect do we give to the elders? How much respect are you giving back to your father? That is the statement we have on the screen right there. Think about it. Think about the statement and say, before I abuse my father, my mother, that they don't wear good clothes or they don't dress well.
Or they don't understand.
They don't understand. They should know that they sold goats and cows.
They cared enough for you.
Yes, they dug so much so that their son and their daughter can have something.
Me, that's the true meaning of sacrifice.
Wow.
And a mother's selfless love is the #1 form of that. They give everything.
Jaffa, we want to hasten to the next one. The cultural wholesomeness of sharing.
I use my word. I know everybody thinks about it.
Yes.
African capitalism. I'm tired of listening to capital socialism because they use it as a dirty word in the West.
Yes.
Yes. What we got from the Magufulis at the tail end of Nyerere's revolution was African socialism. But if China can transcend that and become a command capitalist, ours should be African capitalism, where we can share while earning from it.
I wanted to, while you share that about the Africa, and then I want to bring this together. Most African countries today have closed their borders to their own fellow Africans. You need a visa to enter South Africa. But we're within, from moving from the eastern part of Africa to southern part of Africa, you need a visa.
Just to enter Rwanda here, we will need Kenya here. We need
a security vetting, Interpol,
yes, and everything, and a visa to enter. And I'm saying, where do we draw the line of this Ubuntu spirit that you're talking about? Have our elders stopped speaking to us to tell us, look, young men and young women?
I feel that the leaders started clashing heads. It happened at a moment when, ironically, we had already given each and every person to get, how do you call it, kitambulisho. I don't know how Baganda call it, but the ID card.
Yes.
The ID card is so, not analog, it is so digital that you can just pass through every location in East Africa normally. But then we introduced the East African passport, and I realized that, but that is just a duplication of the ID card that has the same biodata, you know? And we should be able to just use our ID card to cross over. It's only at SADC level, and Professor Lumumba was really discussing that way forward, the roadmap, where SADC, East African Community, the West African ECOWAS, let's see that marriage, people. There are only about 5 regions.
But these regions have elders. The West African have elders, and elders always sit together. Ironically, our cultures actually work together. Our cultures are
we are cohesive.
The food we eat are cohesive. The food we eat are similar, and the way we relate with each other are very similar.
It's the same.
The similarity between the things that we say we do is who we are. We are black.
The danger is the colonial languages. Francophones looking down on the Anglophones who look down on the Germans. I was trying to explain to somebody that, look, actually a Murundi lady was the first president in the region. They said, but she's not from our region. Then I answered the gentleman that, tell that to the Germans who ruled the 3 countries simultaneously, Tanzania, Burundi, and Rwanda. They were the German subjects.
Yes.
Tell that to a German. They said, no, they're one. And the cultures are one. Language. The language barrier is actually the greatest hindrance.
Yes, but I want to put this to you, Jaffa, as my third question just before we take a break. The Western world have their language. The English, which is predominantly spoken in Europe, and the Dutch, they have their language. They have never lost their identity to their language, which means their culture still remains the same. Yeah. Where have we gone wrong in Africa that when we start to speak, we forget about their culture? I may have been born in an era where my father, my mother was not able to teach me my own language for some one reason or the other, but that doesn't mean it takes away my identity
and culture,
my sense of culture, my sense of belonging, and take it away, because I still feel I am who I am today because I'm African.
We are.
Yes, because we are.
The reasoning was, unfortunately, whether it is my Arab brothers or my European brothers, we tagged languages within the parameters of satanic. They started preaching that your language is satanic, your culture is satanic. So stay away from it. The Musomi, the one who reads, who learns Latin fastest, who learns Arabic fastest, is more wholesome. It was a way of breaking us away from who we are. With slavery, remember the Toby? The man was Kunta Kinte, but was being whipped into submission to accept a slaver's name. I find my good friends in the West, I'm talking about Western Ugandan, they like using Western son names. You hear somebody called Johnson Biaruhanga. I'm like, you have double son name. He said, no, that's my Christian name. I'm like, no, that Johnson is a son name, and then Biaruhanga is a son name. Yes. Where's your Christian name? He looks perplexed. Another one comes from the corner, I am Jackson Mwanga.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, that is a Scandinavian name, son name, and here you're a Mwanga. What's going on? I'm saying they pulled us, ironically, away from who we are. If somebody can get to that point of having a double son name.
Yes, I think, well, I have the same, but I don't know whether I have the same name, but I have Okila. And I have Eddie, so...
but Edward is a Christian.
Yes, yes. So I want to go to my friend Onyaito Deke and Diwato Chom.
Yes,
change their names and want to swap
Pan-Africanists.
The next one is Pastor Senpai. Says, I want to change my name from Sempa to Baba Gwanga.
But his Sempa is perfect. Yes, Sempa. You Muganda. That one is a gere. Those ones came. Those ones are Banyoro.
He said no.
Royals are Banyoro. Royals are Banyoro.
But his father is
Royals.
His father is an Indian, and his mother is a Muganda girl. But he got married at the wrong time, and so your dad asked those who want to stay here to stay, and those who don't want to stay to leave. And so his father's family chose to leave. So Sempa said he grew up without the father. He was sharing his story here. So he said he wants to change his name back. I just want to bring this to the context of these guys changing their names. What do you have to say? Because you're saying we have double names.
I have double names.
Yes.
The whole notion of questioning my identity as a Ugandan comes from seeing Idi Amin. Those are two Arab names.
Yes.
Jafar Amin. Those are two Arab names.
Yes.
Everyone in Bombo has Muhammad Hussein.
Yes.
Until you quantify yourself as Remo.
Yes.
Dada. Alemi. Yes. My name is Remo. My father's name is Alemi. My grandfather's name is Dada.
Yes. So I'm in a good place as Okila.
You're in perfection. Now, the Northerners have that important point. So-called Muslims from West Nile will always have that third name sitting in the middle, the balance.
Yes.
The Remo, Jafar Remo Amin.
Yes. So
my identity is sitting smack bang in the middle.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do you get your identity now to put it back from where?
My point is, I don't want to hear people saying, "Don't use that that savage name," or "Don't use that that abominable name." Some people would. Somebody saying, "Oh, my name is Jafar Ondoroma." What's your other name? Amin Ondoroma. No, out. No, there's some people. My grandfather
has arrived.
My grandfather, Rajab.
Yes.
We don't say uncle or great uncle. No. One father was called Rajab, the other one was called Amin.
Yes.
Every time my grandfather would wash ablution and get ready to go to the mosque on Friday like we did today, villagers will come and say, Yango! That's his name. Yango! Is that, don't call me that savage, abominable name. He'd go back and take ablution. He would end up doing it 5 times. But the villagers were having,
having a ball.
They were having, including his daughters. Yango! Astaghfirullah. That's I seek refuge in the name of the Almighty. How can you call me that abominable name? Yango?
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Mr. Suckers going for break, and when we come back, Jaffa will be able to conclude the show. This show has gone bananas. And sweet potatoes in Africa. We'll be right back after the break. This is the Elders Wisdom Circle.
Being comfortable with who you are.
Yes.
been in Uganda for very many years, and I believe Uganda is the place anybody should aspire to live in. We have good weather, we have abundance of food, we have abundance of employment as long as you look out for the right things. But Uganda has been hit in recent times with a stigma of greed, and it shows in everything that we read in the newspapers, it shows on television, it shows even when you're sitting down with people just trying to make ends meet. Everybody wants to bite off a piece that's bigger than what they deserve. That is Uganda's major problem in my eyes. If only we could curb the greed, if only we could share out that pie equally and of course responsibly, then we will be the best country on the planet. In the next 5 years, I really wish and hope that Ugandans can look at the bigger picture, can look at Uganda as a country, can look at their neighbors, their friends, and see that everybody needs equal opportunity. Because in the next 5 years, I don't want people to be calling me up saying, please, can you find me a job? I want people to be calling me up and saying, would you like to come and work with me? That is what I'd like to see. In the next 50 years, I don't want to see my child suffering. I want to see him prosperous. I want to see him with a good wife, with children, with a family of his own, living the dream. That's what I would like to see in Uganda. That's my honest opinion. And I'm Mark Kaheru, I'm Ugandan. What do you say?
Young people at the moment are struggling to understand the older generation because times have changed. Technology has come in.
They've moved on.
Yes.
We're the ones sitting back and wondering, what is my child on to? TikTok has surpassed WhatsApp. The other one I call, I never call it Facebook, it's Bookface. Why are you on Bookface? Dad, it's Facebook.
Yes.
Me, I keep saying, I have a foot amongst the millennials.
Yeah.
And I understand the traditionalists.
Okay.
There's a song in the 60s, by the way, and in the 90s, 70s, where they're like, parents don't understand.
Yes.
Remember Prince?
Yes. This is the Elders Wisdom Circle. My name is Eddie Okela and welcome to the program. We are talking about the elders' wisdom. The elders' wisdom. Do you have elders in your life? Do you have elders at home? Do you listen to your elders? Elders means those who are 50 and above. They have seen more life than a person who is 50 below. 50 and above, even if they're 4 years like Jaffa, those experiences of 4 years are greater than the person who have not reached there even by a quarter of it, right? And so don't think that a 50-year-old is very young. No, 50 plus is an experience that needs to be shared with us. If somebody is older than you by 10 years, take time and listen to them. And listen to them carefully because the experiences they've been through in life are greater than yours. And they might save you from more trouble than good. All right? And so on this show, we tend to share some of the things. And today, Jaffa is talking about I am because we are. And that means that the name we have in Africa and the things we're going through in Africa is because our elders defined them for us. It's because the elders, those who came before us and left before us, have done something greater than we have not done ourselves. So we must learn from them and move forward. Therefore, the foray into the elders' life needs some really great insights. I would like to welcome Jaffa back on the show.
Thank you.
And Jaffa, we're going to hasten to the close, and I want to take you to the wisdom of our elders back in the days. Taught them how to survive when they go to hunt. And they hunted, came back, put the meat, roasted it, and kept the dry meat, not in the fridge, but in the granary.
Yeah, and properly roasted.
And always
dried.
wrapped inside the banana leaves or and put in the pot and dried. And they will pick it up. Now we're living in the eras of fridges, refrigeration, all right? I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm saying there were some wisdom we had there. They had granaries where they will put bananas, okay, cut and kept there, or millet was be put there. All across Africa, you'll find the same, behavior. Yes, setup. You can. We'll get sweet potatoes. We slice them into whatever, into small pieces, and then we
preserve them,
and then we keep
store it. Yes, what we call food security.
Exactly. So food security in Africa has always been the wisdom of the elders.
Yes.
Now
and
the
our
food
mothers.
security and our mothers. But now the food security in Africa is being said that you need to get this crop because your soil is going. Where does that leave us? Where are our elders to speak sense to us to say, yo, young, slow down a bit. This is how we did it. But that culture has disappeared.
It has disappeared in this way. Let me give you what even taught us in the first place to start preserving. We used to have selfish hunters who would go, and you always, because of the greed in humanity, you'd always go and seek the one-ton buffalo. It is so easy to put down a one-ton buffalo. And it is so easy with greed to slice it open and start roasting your favorite liver and chopping off one leg. But lo and behold, if you had not come with a crowd of your people, helpers from the village, by the time you get back to the village, the hyenas would have feasted on the 1 ton, or the 950 tons left in the wilderness. So it taught them to actually bring the wives, 20 wives, sisters, and other helpers to come and share and transport the benefit of their sweat. But in the beginning, it was constantly fighting off animals that would want a share of whatever provisions you have actually brought sustenance to the area. Yeah? So if you see us doing gugus, we call them gugus. The how do you call them? The food storage. Granaries.
Yes, the granaries.
That taught us that sense of preservation.
By the way, we want to just say to people that the granaries that we're talking about here no longer exist, but the elders' wisdom circle is going to go on a hunt to find the granaries, whether in Western Uganda, Eastern Uganda, Northern Uganda, then wherever we find that, or in Central Uganda, we want to show you what the granary looks like.
And can I tell you something that's dear to my heart?
What we need to do is to reach to some of the elders to tell them, put a granary for us and put some stuff inside.
Yeah. No, the challenge is... The challenge is this, where mothers come, they cut the palm fronts, and they build for you a granary right in front of your eyes. It's like knitting, because they're using palms and palms. It preserves better. Put the platform, setting it with the. Now, there's an architect from West Nile called Waswa Primo. He has useful names. Primo. You wonder where it comes from.
Japan. I drive Primo.
Waswa has built an 8-storied design for a cultural center, which we want to build in every region of Uganda and multiply it 15 times and try to do that to every location in the whole of Africa. I want to introduce that to Baba Professor Lumumba, because we're together in an ironic company called Saint Africa, where we're going to highlight the positives of our people.
This is with Bedford Buyungo.
Yeah, Bedford Buyungo, if you're listening. And Professor is in town, by the way.
Right now. I think he's
No, he was yesterday live on NBS. Okay. And NBS is a TV station in Uganda. But these are the people who are saying, we have a right to call our people saints. Saints in the sense that all goodness resides amongst those who are saintly characters who would actually give back to society.
Which is the cultural wholesomeness of sharing.
And the whole point of I am because we are, and understanding and accepting who you are. Remember me laughing at my grandfather? A lot of people do that. And that explains somebody calling himself Johnson Biarohanga, or Johnson Alemi, or Jafar Amin, instead of Remo Alemi Dada.
If you want to show this one here for you, and of course Onyaito Deke, they will love this show today because they changed their names back to Onyaito Deke, Hidiwato Cho.
Learning to love yourself.
Yes, and that's a cool stuff.
Yeah, remember the girls who came last week. I hope you really get a show for them. There's a part that Americans did to us that we are not doing to ourselves. They would always say, I am somebody. You might not love who I am, but I am somebody.
Yes.
I am somebody. It became a chant for us, the people who are Black Panthers. I am somebody. that looking in the face that we were talking about two shows earlier.
Yes.
Learning to love ourselves comes out very beautifully with the Ubuntu statement. I am because we are.
Please put that topic up there, and we're going to ask Jaffa the last question as we hasten to the close of the show today. We are talking about, put it up there. We want to keep it up on the screen for some time so people can see it. I am because we are, the cultural wholesomeness of sharing. And we're talking about the Ubuntu. And I always talked about, if we do not give ourselves a chance to live and to breathe, the things that are very important to us, we're going to lose ourselves in the process of transition.
That is it.
And if our elders are not preserving our cultures or writing about it, we are going to lose our sense of identity. Jaffa, we suffer the biggest sense of identity as a country.
Yes.
As a continent.
Yes.
The biggest problem we have is our sense of identity has been confused. It's a fluid, Onyaito Deke says it's fluid in this generation that we don't understand what we stand for. Who am I? What am I? What are the values that define me as a person? Is lost. We need elders in the fireplace to tell us this. Why and how can we put back our identity? Where can we find the elders who can speak life and sense back to us?
Let me give you a beautiful one. My favorite place is called Kidepo. Kidepo, when you go to Morongole Mountain, then you go to an incredible crater lake near Turkana, and then you come to Elgon. It seems to be an epicenter of all life, all Africans, or the essence of all our genetic identity. Now you find a rabbi coming from Israel saying he's looking for the lost Hebrews in the very same vicinity. If somebody has spent his years in Igbo trying to be an Israelite, rather than understanding that they came from me, you will never settle in who you are. That explains me calling myself Jafar Amin. I'm too busy trying to be an Arab. But there's the wholesomeness of being a Muslim and a Christian. It teaches you the highest sense of morals, but it also teaches you a heightened sense of entitlement of who you are. When we balance that by accepting who we are, and you're shocked by a rabbi who says, there's an epicenter here of the 10 lost tribes, because for us, we only have, he was telling me strange things. We only have the Benjamins and the Judahs. Those two are the only ones who went back home. The rest are here. And he pointed the location. I'm like, wow! Science also teaches that the same thing, that the same location is where the highest concentration of genetic makeup of the whole humanity. And I'm like, I am because we are. That is the moment of accepting. I saw that in the 70s with Jamaicans. Do you still live in trees? I'm like, what? I said, where did the Queen live when she came in 1954? No, we have the biggest tree here. And the Queen, she had to climb up a rope to enter the tree to live. They said, oh, you're jiving, you're joking. I said, now you get it. Of course we live in houses. But it's the same thing with Americans.
Yes.
They're beginning to start accepting and getting African names.
Yes.
It's not so much that Muhammad Ali is ironically getting Arab names. They're now understanding that no, you need to be called Odongo. Opio.
Nsumuga.
Nsumuga. Odompeng. Odonkara.
Yes. Adrapi.
Woo! Remo. You know, they're beginning to understand that those are not dirty names, names with a history and a culture.
And that's our identity.
Well, they're quick to aim at Ethiopia, and I'm like, no. You're straight from the Wolof. You look like a typical man from the Angola. Yes. You know, you can just see it in their faces. You know the way we identify each other?
Yes.
With Americans, it's quick. Look at Shaq. Yes. Shaquille O'Neal is a typical Dinka. He can't move away from it. He's a Dinka. 3-1-1. Now, we can tell that.
Yes.
So when they come and learn to listen, I have friends who come, superstars by the way, they come and sit at the source of the Nile.
Yes.
And they're like, Jaffa, we're going to fly in place. You set up a landing strip here. I said, Madvani has one there, but it's only for sugar. Yes. But can you imagine the history? Why should only Ghana get the return back to Africa when there's the source of the Nile in Uganda? Ajarova, are you listening? Half Italian you? That is it. The return back to Africa. Yeah. Americans are loving Africa. It has nothing to do with Obama, but he's accepting his Jaluo-ness. That sense of acceptance.
Our elders understanding this.
The elders taught us that. Believe you me, I came back at age 24 and I was talking through my nose. Clipped English. Wow. I had to put on the brakes and listen. Well, that's how I learned to listen from 1990 to date at age 54. I shaved my beard yesterday. I got tired of looking old, but I'm not old.
But why do you want to look young? You should
no.
Masulugo is good.
No, it's my vibe. It's the wife is like, honey, you're making me look old. You have to listen. They say it with the eyes. By the way, they say it with the eyes.
Jaffa?
They say it with the eyes.
We're going to bring the show to an end today. The shows are going to end. The show is too much power, too much energy, and too much wisdom. But welcome to the show today.
Thank you.
And as always, the toast. If you want to get this cup from the Elders Wisdom Circle right here, you've got to write a comment to us. Of course, or write an email to us at houseoftalenttv@gmail.com, and we will be able to give you the card. But tell us the comment. What have you learned from your elder?
And we need Bedford and Professor Lumumba to get in on this.
Ladies
because
and gentlemen,
I was blown away for the first time I ever heard on a panel a man speaking for 3 minutes. And to me, it spoke to my heart. The heartbeat of Africa. And I'm like, Professor Lumumba, where you at? Where you at?
We're tossing and
he belongs on the Elders Wisdom Circle. You might have to go to his place.
Yes, to get him. We will find Professor Lumumba.
No, go to his source.
Yes, and we will always find all the elders. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end, and this is the Elders Wisdom Circle. We drink it out. Until next week, it's a wrap.
Ubuntu.
Yes, and keep it safe and keep it Elders Wisdom Circle. Until then, it's a wrap. We're out.
Tusonge,
Welcome to the Family Talk. My name is Eddie Okila. It's yet another Sunday afternoon or morning or afternoon or evening, depending on which part of the world you are located or geographically found at this hour of day. Okay, while we bring you the Family Talk Show. The Family Talk Show exists to give us an insight into how we should manage our families and what we should do to make our families better. And of course, this particular episode of the show today, we're looking at the role of fatherhood in our life. Lessons learned from fathers. We did the lessons learned from our mothers, and I think it was quite very, fantastic to, hear people share ideas and stories and stuff that came from their mothers. Now we want to hear the ideas and stuff that came from fathers. Okay, last week on the show we had a very interesting topic. When your father was not part of your life, or when you finally realized that the man who you called a daddy is not your real father, how do you deal with the emotions that follow when you learned when you are 45? Some people learn when they are 50 and they start to blame their mothers. Sylvain was on the show last week and is back on the show. And Pastor Joshua Martin Mugabe, the resident panelist, is here. Is the father of all the people sitting on the show today. And the man was married to so many people. He works and marries people. That is his job. Pastor Joshua, welcome to the show. Are we still bongering?
Well, it's still the new story.
We need to teach Sylvain how this thing is done. He's still learning how to do it. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Pastor, a recap of where you were last week.
Where was I last week?
You had a son who had a father.
Yes.
Who chose you to be the father.
Yes.
What was the story like?
Yes. This young man, his mother used to come to our cell, and that's how we got to meet him. But he was born out of wedlock. His mother died, and so his father was not so happy with him, and technically his father was not in his life. So some of us, by God's grace, we feature in his life, talk to him, challenge him to push on, challenge him to forgive his father, challenge him to do what is right. And in all that hustle and bustle, he finally does a degree in Makerere University, a degree of electrical engineering, electronic engineering. That's what he did. And he graduated, and he said, I need a party, and I want you to be present because you've been part and parcel of my life. And so there's no way I could be here and be the second missing father in his life. I had to be the father. Yes. I had to be there. I knew it was a testimony, an encouragement for me, but also for him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Sylvain, you've heard from Pastor Joshua Mugabe. I mean, you were on the show last week as your first time on the show. What was it like, and what feedback did you get from those who watch you on the show, and what were they telling you? How should we improve? What should we drop? What should we add? Or were you a missing father somewhere, or you were a full father somewhere? Yes.
Well, I think I talked to someone just after here. Unfortunately, she had not watched the show, but she felt like she would like to listen in. I hope she's listening in now. But my feeling when I left here, I realized, wow, I have a story to tell. Because, like I told you, not living with your father or realizing that was not your father, it's not the only way to struggle with it. Because my case is that I was at a point when I would ask my mom, is this my real dad? So he can be there, but he behaves as though he's not there. You don't feel that he is your father. So there are many angles along which you can feel you're lacking a father figure within your life. But in all that we had a conversation about, I was so happy that I told my part of my story, because who knows, there could be another one like the one Joshua had gone to support, to be with after his graduation, who is thinking, I think the world is turning like a box on me. I don't have a future. because I don't have a father. Yet it is not necessarily true. There are some fathers who are there, but they are figures. They are not touching the hearts of the ones they give birth to. So I'm glad I was here, and I'm glad I'm back. I hope I will share a little more. And I think it is an interesting topic. It is something we need to dig deep into. Like, you know, I'm so much interested in politics, but you know very well that if our families are not really firm, if our fathers are not really strong to impart the values and culture, you know, family culture, then eventually we shall have the kind of governments that we have that we always complain about. So it has where it starts from.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Wow. Well, you've heard from Sylvain right there, and you've heard from Pastor Joshua Martin Mugabe. We want you to share this particular program far and wide. I don't know about you, but I have met so many people who learned about the situation surrounding their father and fatherhood from a very later age or stage in their life, and they started to struggle with it. Some have blamed their mothers for not being honest. Others have blamed their fathers for being a runaway dad. Others have said, but where were you? What happened? How did, you know? There's always a lot of sort of emotional situation that surround a person, a man, when he doesn't understand who his true identity should be up to. On earth here, we know that there is Jesus and there is God who says, I have adopted you. First of all, I was your father anyway. I knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb.
Yes.
And so the story goes on. So it's a discussion we're having today, and I want the team to put that question up there. The topic continues, and if you could just put it up there so that everyone can be part of it. And I want to read it. The topic, which is on our series of fatherhood, is when your father is not your real father, how do you deal with the emotional situation later? How do you deal with it? How do you cope up with it? Do you blame your mother or your father? And Pastor Joshua Martin Mugabe, I want to start from you from that point. If I am there and I learned about my father at 32, 42, and all along my emotion have been invested in this gentleman whom I have called a dad or a father for a long period, for 42 years. And my mother was quiet, never said it. And then she says, oh, by the way, I think you need to now know the truth. The truth is, this is not your real father. Your real father is this one here who lives in this particular area. He's still alive or he's dead. Normally when he's dead is understandable, because then you cannot start. You connect with a few uncles here and there and then life goes on. But if he's alive and now you have to go and reclaim situation, there's this whole thing about property. You could be your father's heir to the throne and stuff like that. So the sense of belonging and identity begin to clash. And when that happens, how should a 42-year-old man or a 32-year-old man or even a 45-year-old man deal with it? Some people blame their mothers. Others have said that my mother was useless. Others have said that from that point I terminated my relationship with my mother because I felt like my mother was dishonest. How many things did she hide from me? Or is she hiding from my siblings as well? How do we deal with that situation, Pastor?
Wow. You're raising many things in this one question.
Yes.
And maybe we need to distill some of the issues. One, there is me, myself, and what has happened to me. Then there are facts of what has happened all along until I'm 42. Then there's the issue, what do I do after getting new facts? And so to begin with, what do I do, I myself, at 42 or 50 something, when this issue now becomes an issue? This is my recommendation, because like we are told in life, you cannot stop the birds from flying over your head. Sometimes they can even poo on your head, all right? But you can stop them from building a nest and laying eggs there. Okay, so, but if you say now these birds and my hair, see what they've done, and you don't advance from there, you can't blame the bird. Now that has happened to you is a personal responsibility. And legally, when you turn 18, it's no longer you blaming somebody else. You must take personal responsibility. And In the Bible, I think when you turn 12, at least that was a Jewish tradition, you turn 12, they start counting you as a man. But I think you go to war at age 20. So if you're 42, that means you're twice qualified for going to war. Okay? Yeah. And the challenge you have is, how do I win this battle? The issue of identity, yes, knowing who your actual father is, not even actual father, biological father, because there's the biology which helps you to settle some of the question of who am I, where do I come from, who am I connected to. It gives you access to what I would call earthly bits. That is key. But there are people that can function as fathers in your life. The fatherly role, which includes guidance, which includes protection, which includes provision, to a place where you're able to stand on your own. All right? And that person, in my view, qualifies more as a father than somebody who provided the sperm that ignited your life. All right? So we want to go beyond that. We do respect, because when God gave the man the responsibility to be a father, to represent him, there's an honor that comes with it, being a father. Although many have abused it, many don't even understand it, many simply live on, some carrying over the pain. But I think one of us needs to break that chain and say, you know, this stops here. I know who I am. I'm a child of Eddie. Okay, now I've been told at 50 that I'm not a son of Eddie. But Eddie has invested his life in me. Eddie has given of his money, has given of his time, he's protected me, he's trained me. I am who I am today because of his direct investment in my life. Honor is due to, give honor to whom honor is due. So I ought to honor that man, whether he's a provider, and allow me to say of that, initiating sperm or not. I think we must go beyond the biology and get to the place of function. And that is a personal responsibility for him to say, okay, fine. Are there things that I miss from my father? Maybe yes. All right? And that's where maybe you also said that probably now you're missing the inheritance of the father. I like what one gentleman said, because again, he grew up with his father. Direct, this is my father, but his father was clear. So this is my property, not yours. All right. So the reason I'm sending you to school, and I think by the age 10, when their father was building the house, okay, he told them, there's no way I'm going to hire a truck to carry bricks to build my house when you kids are here.
You will carry the bricks.
Yes. So they carried 10,000 bricks from the nearby. I don't know what they call it in English, that place where they baked bricks. They would carry them to the building site so that they learn to work. And I'll tell you, that gentleman is a high entrepreneur. He made up his mind, I'm not here to fight for the property of my father, I'm here to have my own property. And I think that's the attitude we should be having at this time. Not, when daddy are you dying so that I inherit? No. When am I acquiring more property and substance and honor than my father? I think that should be what drives us.
Okay.
Yes.
Sylvain, you have had Pastor's point. If you will wrap it up on that point just before we go for a break. The story Pastor has given us is one. What I learned from this is don't dwell so much on what is past. Even the ones who you are not calling is your father, you're trying to sort of like divorce the emotion from when you've learned who the real father is, still invested his emotion on you by just allowing you to be in his presence and to take you and to say, this is my son. Because also there are two ways that gentleman knew that you are not his, but he started with you. His came afterward. And so that was the emotional investment from that gentleman to you. So while you are dealing with the situation of the motherhood, you need to look at that. But there was a lesson also we learned from you, and Pastor just saying work hard. The lesson we learned from you last week, which is where we're going to pick from when we come back from the breaks of him. First of all, you're talking about adding your point to what Pastor said, and then we want you to touch on that moment when your father also said, okay, if you are leaving, you are done. You are no longer my son. and you are rejected by your own father. How did you deal with the entire emotion anyway? You were dealing with a real life situation.
Well, let me wrap up on what Pastor said. I think he's very, very right. Because it's so sad that nowadays in Uganda, not just within our area in Rukunjiri, I think it's all over. You can see it on Agatari Konfufu. Old people are fighting for property, and they have their own children. They're fighting for property of their own fathers. In other words, the grandchildren are seeing their uncles and aunties really stretching, going to court and doing all those things just because they are fighting on one small thing, a piece of property. Yet, if they had intentionally, like the example Joshua gave, trained their own children to work towards independence, then these fights would actually not be there. So I strongly feel, one, when you realize this is not your father, finally, he's not your biological father, you don't have to carry it forward and keep saying because every because should be having, you know, a response onto it. It just doesn't keep like because. In any case, it doesn't grow you. It's not an investment. You're not going to harvest anything from there. It is important you get to know that your father lived a life and you're going to live a life. It is important to know that you're not going to change your biological father. Whatever you'd really want to know, you will never at any one time find your biological father, even if you pray, you know, storms to come down. Your father will never change. Will remain that biological father. I think you need to shift and say, oh, wait a minute. I could even live without my biological father. Thank God. And now, God, what do I do with my life? Because if you do not focus on to that, chances are you're going to be competing with something that is not there. And in the process, you will crash. You remember I was mentioning, you will be wanting to live the life which is different from your father's, but you didn't see your father's life anyway. You know him as your father. You don't know his life growing up. So you're competing with something you do not know its dimensions, its details. You don't have answers as to why he could have treated you the way he treated you. If he abandoned you, why he could have abandoned you. Whether he really quarreled with your mom, or if your mom was the one stubborn. You don't know the surrounding. you don't know the surroundings in there. But you're only complaining, my father. You're only saying that from there, the person you talked about, from there I cut my relationships with my mother. Does he know that he was in the hands of his mother up until the time he actually had the reason that, well, my mother did not live with my biological father? What if his mother decided to terminate his life? Why can't he be thankful that he's actually been brought up to this very level, that he's even in the position to think, to reason, to say, let me live my life? Other than that, we are going to stay in this situation, rotation, thinking, and so much, unfortunately, that's actually going to affect us. At the end of the day, if you're normal, biologically normal, you'll have feelings, you'll want to marry, but you want to get married. So at some point, you're going to be a parent. And when these things stay within you, when you don't release, when you don't seek God, they will trickle down onto your children. And unfortunately, they'll be suffering from something they have no clue about. And you'll end up also not having a good family. That's what I could put across.
Well, thank you very much, Sylvain. And we're now going to take a break. And when we come back, we will be talking to Sylvain about how he, personally as a person, dealt with the situation when he wasn't agreeing with his dad. And his dad says, okay, out of my life, out of my compound. But now they have a relationship. And then he goes on to graduate from Makerere University, and now the prodigal son returns home. The story is the other way around, not like the one you know in the Bible.
Yeah,
what
prodigal
happened?
Father.
Yes, yeah, exactly. The prodigal father and the prodigal son.
Let's go for a break, and when we come back, the Family Talk Show will return, and we want to hear your comments and your kisses and your disses. If you have a story, please share with us. We're going to read it here. We'll be right back after the break. People at the moment are struggling to understand the older generation because times have changed. Technology has come in.
They've moved on.
Yes.
We're the ones sitting back and wondering, what is my child on to? TikTok has surpassed WhatsApp. The other one I call, I never call it Facebook, it's Bookface. Why are you on Bookface? Dad, it's Facebook.
Yes.
Me, I keep saying, I have a foot amongst the millennials.
Yeah.
And I understand the traditionalists.
Okay.
There's a song in the 60s, by the way, and in the 90s, 70s, where they're like, parents don't understand.
Yes.
Remember Prince?
Yes.
Prince.
You will put that later, the next break, you start.
Welcome back from the break. This is the Family Talk Show. My name is Eddie Okila, and in the studio is Pastor Joshua Martin Mugabe and Selvin Gomisiriza. I think I've gotten the name right. Gentlemen, welcome back to the job. Yeah. And of course to the show as well. This is a job for you because you are sharing some really deep stuff that touches many people's lives. And Selvin, just before we went for a break, we were summarizing that first question and that first discussion. If you're 42 or 30 and you learned that your mother now tells you that this was not your father, you effectively shared on that one. We want to just dive a little bit from where we stopped last week. Last week you shared with us the story of you personally, your dad. And the reason why Family Talk Show exists is so that we can bring some really practical situation happening in our families, in our lives, to share with those who may not be able to get opportunity to come here, so they can learn a thing or two from. There's that story about you and your dad, when he said, you're not listening to me and I'm done. And off the camera, you discussed a very interesting moment when you are sent to take the food, and your dad says, take that food back to your mother and ask her, why is the food coming late? Where was she? And you felt like this is not right at 12 years of age. The actions that followed were quite very interesting. I know a son to a man who did that at 10. And he got a knife and stood in between and said, Dad, I'm going to sort you out today. With a knife in between when there was a fight going on. The father disowned him and said, after all, you're not mine. So he lived knowing that that was not his dad. He was taken away from the father, kept with the uncle for some time. The mother reaffirmed to him at 24, that is your real father. The action you did angered him the most, so he rejected you and suspected me to have been doing some gallivanting around the community, so he didn't believe you were his son. And so 24, 32, he's still struggling. He's now 35 from that episode that happened. He regrets what happened, but he said, that was my father. If he cannot realize that it was his mistake that led me to doing that because I was saying it, then there is no point of relationship between me and my father, because up to now he has never realized that he is the problem. So 32 years of age, he's still dealing with the emotion. He doesn't believe his father understands. But we have you here at 12.
Yeah.
I mean, would you like to share with us that, just that little bit?
Well, why not? I have to share it because, I mean, he's 35. I'm about 9, 10 years older than him. Yes. Here's the thing. In an event you are caught in an environment that you're not part of, you've really not created. Humanly speaking, you want to find out, why has it happened? And why is it happening to me? In the first instance, I'm not the one who had cooked the food. I am his son. I was only given the food to take it to him. I do not see any reason as to why he could say, why did she cook late? Take it back. And then follow it, into this almost physical fighting. A young man around that age, what comes in mind is to sort things out. And I really understand that 10 years old guy. Not to justify what he did, but I understand him, because the last thing you want to see is your mother crying. She had better cry not in your sight, and especially for boys, at least not in your sight. At least find her crying and ask her what really happened, but not even when you're seeing that that's the cause. But here's what moved on. In my case, more or less the same thing. And it's also easy for a parent to easily say, after all, and the statement is after all, meaning probably has been struggling with it. Or sometimes you make statements wanting to deviate the thinking pattern of the other person so they could come back and apologize. In my case, the next day I was denied to go to school. I stayed in the hills looking after cows, and I came with a neighbor. And when I reached, the neighbor told me, you know what? The dad is the dad. Get down, get your sticks. Surely, yes, I got them. But do you know what I was feeling?
The real
yes.
African one.
Yeah, but do you know what I was feeling? I am here because you've said I do. I am down, but in my heart, I am up. That's what runs in the
How old were you?
I was 12. No, I was 12. 12, 13 there. No, I was 13 because I was now in senior 1. At that point, you will get down, and by the time you get down, you don't even feel the pain. You don't even think you're going to have to feel the pain. You're only saying, finish. I just want to go. Now, at that point, you are really hardening a child's heart. So unfortunate. And if you do not think about it and begin looking at a point where you can begin to reconcile that, it trickles down. it goes down. And like I told you, at 16, I had to leave. It was so simple. Because I said, you know what, Dad, it doesn't look like we're going to have a life. And I don't want to hurt you. Because I had siblings.
Were you his firstborn?
Yes, I'm his firstborn. I had siblings. They're still there. So there was a possibility of choosing to go into this masculine nature and choose to fight my dad. But I don't know who would have hurt the other. Possibly I would have hurt him. I was watching lots of movies. I had lots of tactics around that. So you do not know how I would have. You don't know how I would have hurt him.
You had all the kung fu movies.
All of them.
You were in China,
I was watching
Japan,
the Bruce Lees, the Rambos, the Schwarzeneggers, the Chuck Norris, and I still remember them. You see, off head. So that would mean that if I applied, I could touch him a wrong part. Maybe he gets lame. And my siblings are saying, you're the one.
Yeah.
Or it could go even worse. He dies. And they say, you killed our dad. So all those elements need to be thought about. Now, thank God, incidentally, I had not even given my life to Christ. I don't know how the Holy Spirit held me in that situation. But I chose to say, you know what, Dad, it's okay. I need to move on. And he had never told me I'm not his son. But for when I was moving out is when he said, when you leave this house, don't count yourself among my children. I said, okay. But what is the benefit of staying under these conditions when I even don't feel like I'm your child or anyway?
By your action.
By your actions.
Yeah.
And I moved. Fast forward, I lived with a good Samaritan. I went to work. But what was running in my mind is that I am missing school.
So first of all, pause it right there. What work were you going to do when you left home at 13?
You can do
I know we've all done some crazy things at 13, but yes, You
can do any work. You can, I was looking after cows. You can graze somebody's cows. And it's very common. After 1 year, they'll give you a cow. Or you agree on a pay per month. They'll give you that one.
Okay.
Yeah, and you say, you know what, this is the life I'm in, so let me live like this. But the beauty with this, and you know, when God is into it, he will still direct it his way. The people in whose hands I landed were so gracious. 5-6 months later, they're asking me, you boy, you never asked for your money. I said, yeah, I didn't leave home because of money. I left home because I was denied school. So the question was, do we put you at school as who? But will you even manage the work? I said, well, let's try it. Fast forward, put me at school, senior 3 now, 17. They put me at school, and God in his own way, I was never the last. I was always attentive in class. My scores at that time made them tick. I said, you know what, you can even drop work. Focus on school. So when God is into it, he will actually make it work.
This is somebody, a stranger, not you.
Totally, not anywhere related. The person who took me there took me to this gentleman, was actually the fiancé to this gentleman because he was a neighbor. That's all I remember. And 4 months later, they married. That's all I knew. Finishing my senior 3, I landed in the hands of my uncle, who had been away from my life for about 8-9 years. And when he saw me, my grandmother was so lovely and said, this is Sylvain. He said, oh, this is the boy. And life changed. Immediately I was picked from Rukunjiri to Kampala. And things turned around. But does that mean that I stopped remembering what was happening home? No. Every other challenge I faced within Kampala, I subjected it to the fact that my dad did not really do what? Did not take care, you know?
Yeah.
At that point, you keep thinking, it is because my dad. It is because my dad. It is. So you always have where to fall to complain or to give a reason that things are not happening the way they are happening. Here is one interesting component of it. Sometimes the parents also do not know what to do. they also don't know what they are going through. They don't know why they are doing what they are doing. You know how villages are. There are many spirits in there, and there are many good-willed people, but there are also bad people as well. And the competition is in how much land do you have, how many cows, how many children, you know, where are your children going to school, where are mine going to school. Those are sort of the competitions. Now, when they see your son or your daughter doing well, it's not because they're not necessarily that much happy that your son and daughter are really doing well. They wish theirs were doing well. So I really do not know what my dad was struggling with. But it took me time to think that way. I can guarantee you, Senior 4, I was not friendly. Senior 6, not at all. College, not at all. It is until I gave my life to Christ, I said, okay, something has got to be different here. I need to really, really, really find out. And it turns out that the challenge with parents from the village especially, and when they don't have people speaking to them, they struggle to apologize. They struggle to reconcile. Yeah.
Pastor Joshua, you will pick from that point.
Yes. They struggle to reconcile because this young boy or young man, he also would like to hear his dad say, "My son, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to tell you that." Or I did it, but I didn't know it would really bring about that. Along the way, they would realize that, wait, my dad is human. The challenge the biggest mistake I think we make, especially in the African context, you know, this element of saying, men do not apologize. Or parents do not apologize to their children. But that's not true. It doesn't mean that you don't once in a while touch them the wrong way. And the Bible puts it very, very clear. You know, children honor and respect your parents. Yeah. Parents, you also have a responsibility. It's not because we honor you, we respect you, that you have to do to us as and when you really want. Yeah. There's an element that you've got to make sure that we do not detest you, would not feel bad about you. Gladly, now it has changed to some level because I'm quite independent. And I can guarantee you it is growth. It is work in progress. It doesn't come immediately because it took a long time. You can be sure I've cut very many stories in the middle. Yeah. It took a long time. So it has got to take another long time to get back. The most important thing for me here is this could also happen to me if I keep at it in that context. So I have got to, as much as possible, pray, God, help me that if it is a curse, we cut it at that point. My family does not go into that state. And looking back, surely, I just find growing up, my grandfather was fighting his dad. My uncles were always fighting with my father. So it was sort of a war zone in that sense. So me being beaten and thrown out of the home, it was one other thing they could easily do. But the question is that what I really want to have in my family growing up? Yeah. Is that kind of the grandfather that I want my grandchild to look at and say, I remember you fighting my dad. Yeah. So, and that gentleman also has got work to do, even at his 35, because a lot of it that we learn while watching, most of the things you don't have to talk. We just have to see you, we have to hear you talk on phone. Nowadays, you know, life has changed, many people have got phones, but even when on phone, it is possible to tell that this conversation is not sweet, this is sour. When you get off the phone, it is possible for someone to know this is bitter. So let's really watch out. My final statement on that is, you can forgive your dad. Okay. You can. Because if you do not forgive, Mandela calls it taking poison and you expect the other person to die. Someone has hurt you, So you stay with this anger. You don't know why he has hurt you. You don't know where it has come from. You stay annoyed with him or you stay annoyed with her. He doesn't know. Or he knows, and then he's happy with it that you're actually annoyed. But you stay on it. Yeah. He describes it as for you choosing to take poison, and you think, for that matter, the other person you hate is going to die. You can choose to deliberately forgive whoever has hurt you, and especially to the young ones or anyone listening about cases between him and his dad. You have to choose to. It is one of the hardest things to do. I can guarantee you, when I said I forgive, I can give you a short scenario here. I'm in this training and we were doing inner healing and emotional wholeness. This man says, get a piece of paper, divide it into two. On one side, write the people you want to forgive. On this other side, you write the people you want that they forgive you. Now, because you know when you're angry, you think everybody owes you. so you start writing. Yes. I wrote 1, 2, the third name was my dad. 3, 4, 5, the sixth name was my dad. Up until, I remember very well, 52, I was still writing people to forgive. But I was saying, God, I can forgive all, but not this.
It's number 6 and number
yes.
12.
Number 7, 6 and 12.
Yeah. But I remember when I wrote that name down, I crashed. I cried. But here's the beauty of it. I got relieved. And at that point, I began seeing him as somebody that is human, that made mistakes, some of which he doesn't know. And I began trying to create a relationship, back. And it is now a little bit sweet to realize that you get home. Sometimes he gives me a call. I say, son, I say, Daddy, it's so sweet to hear that statement. Wow. But it's something you've got to work for.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, Pastor Joshua Mugabe has a lot to tell us from where Sylvia stopped, and that will be the last part of this show today. I told you the Family Talk Show exists for us to share the deepest part of our stories to get somebody healing tomorrow. And of course, every family in the world has got that problem. Let's get into a break, and when we come back, Pastor Joshua Martin Mugabe will pick it up from there. And that will take us to the close of the show. The Family Talk Show continue after this break.
It is the Family Talk Show. Welcome back from that break. And this last part of the show, Pastor Joshua Martin Mugabe is going to take a little bit of a moment to take us through, of course, what Sylvain has just been sharing with us. I think you've heard the story of Sylvain, and I think it's a story full of lessons to learn, things to drop, and things to pick from. The one thing I understand from there, gentlemen, welcome back to the show, is that you can forgive. It doesn't matter. That's what I was waiting for. What is the take home from this long story? Which part of it we have even missed? But what's the take home? He says you can forgive.
Yeah.
52 was the list. I don't know what was on the other right side.
There's number 6 and number 2.
Number 12. No, number 3, number 6
this
and 12.
like election results.
Pastor, pick it up from there. From the story of Sylvain, what lessons do we learn from here, and how can we get out of this? If you've been listening very critically, I want you to share your thoughts.
I'll not list them in order of importance, but they are key things, because he is lucky, at least he grew up with his dad to age 12 and then was forced into a new dimension. Some of us were privileged that we didn't grow up with our father, so...
Is that the privilege? Okay, yes, so in this context, that's a privilege.
Yes, we didn't have to go to either hold a knife and be rejected, whichever. We were rejected before we were born, that we were out on that. But picking from, you remember he began the story on when he was doing studies on emotional healing.
Yes.
Or inner healing.
Yes, inner healing.
Yes. And sometimes we know how to go to hospital for physical healing, but we struggle with going to a place where we will be helped to connect with our emotions. Yet I think God created us spiritual and also emotional. And the state of our emotions have an impact. You want to hold a knife to ease those emotions, to run away, you harden in life. I think if there's something we need to go to is we need to get in touch with our emotions and find healing. You may want to pay a counselor, you may want to study books, but you need to come face to face with your emotions. The things you've done, the things that have been done to you are key. I do personal counseling with people, and some of it has to do with dealing with my past. I appreciate it. Some of us went to schools that up to now we don't want to mention that they are schools. So those are key things that we want to deal with. So we must get to a place of emotional healing, because if you are sick on the inside, unfortunately you produce sick results. You will infect others. And so we must find that healing. And then the other is, he looked for forgiveness. We must make a choice to forgive. I told you this young man last Sunday I was with, one of his struggles, how do I forgive? There are several people I told, it's important that you get to forgive. Because when you forgive, you may not necessarily be released by the other person, but it eases the burden that you're carrying. I know you do weights, and weights do a lot
in muscle development.
Yes. But that some people are carrying weights that they never rest from, and they have such baggage muscles which they cannot use. In fact, I tell people they could by now be world champions because the weights they're carrying are so heavy. But they need to put those weights down and find relief. And that is by finding forgiveness, which also goes hand in hand with asking for forgiveness. Because sometimes we've offended people, that's the least we had. Those who you need to forgive.
We never had to know the left was full. We didn't hear the right side, whether you ever had anyone on this side. Yes.
We must learn to ask for forgiveness. Now, part of the challenge with us men is we think that when we act away from asking for forgiveness or saying I'm sorry, we'll be understood. But I think the principle in life is, yes, if you've offended, say I am sorry. And also say I have forgiven you. Those words are important. Don't simply act, because people will not fully understand. They may even think that your act of repentance is more of a cover-up. So it's important that we get to say, I'm sorry, I did this wrong, and the Bible also adds on, go the extra mile. They call it restitution. Go the extra mile, restore. You borrowed somebody's cow, it died in your house. Don't simply say, sorry, your cow died in my house. No, pay it back with a calf. All right, so something like that, it helps you to go to the next level. So there's asking for forgiveness, looking for healing. Then I like what somebody said, don't waste your pain. Don't waste your pain. The things you've gone through that have hurt you and formed your thinking, don't waste them. Ask yourself, what do I pick from these pains so that I can live better? Am I going to repeat the story or not? If I've learned to live with this pain, how do I go to the next level to prevent it from continuing to, not to, because, I mean, having suffered the things that you've suffered, you've grown without your father, then why do you want to become like your father? I think that's wasted. Okay? I think that's wasted. Yes. And yet, sometimes, like you said, we learn by what we see more than what we hear.
Yeah.
And so sometimes some of us find ourselves in a state of repeating the very mistakes our fathers did. Not that they sat down in a class. And again, that's another thing I want to tell people. Look through what are the trends that are in your family and what counteraction can you take to break that trend. All right? Some of us pray, which is good. But in addition to prayer, you must take action. Like, I mean, if they were not paying school fees for the girls in your family, break that trend by paying school fees for girls. If people are not getting married in your family, make sure you work towards proper marriage in your family. If they don't have land titles in their names, get land titles in the names of the family. Yeah. Because sometimes that's where troubles begin. Some legal things are not completed. So we want to sort some of those legal issues that must be dealt with. So that's what I was saying. Don't waste your pain.
Pastor, there is a part where Sylvain says that when he returned from the hills looking after the cows, and the neighbor said, you know what? This is not going well for you. Yes. Your father is quite very furious with you.
Yes.
I think the best thing to do is go received.
Yeah.
There was a heart there of him when he says, I went down to be beaten.
Yeah.
I wasn't caring about the pain that I was going to be given stroke. Basically, the heart has hardened.
Yes.
The pain was gone. You can cane me, get done with it. I don't care, but we are not finishing now.
Yes.
Many of us often get to that point where we leave the child. We don't even know how deep it is when we're caning the child.
Yeah.
He went down, received the strokes, walked out with it, says, you're done with it, you're happy?
Yeah.
I move on with this one.
Yeah.
But you've not solved the problem. How do we help men who have gone through that kind of thinking, like Sylvain has just shared, to outcome that emotion which takes so long? Sylvain says at some point that the day his father called him, this took long. So I can imagine 13 to until 2009, he was there December, and the father called him to wish him a Happy New Year.
Yes.
He said everything from him just...
But 2009 was 2019.
Yes.
I mean, from when it happened, that was 1993.
Yes.
When I left home. His first call, Happy New Year, was 2019.
Wow.
Yeah, you forgive him because MTN came into being in 2000. So, even if he had wanted to call, there was no landlines. You had to go and book somewhere on TV Road. So we will forgive him for that.
Yeah. But yes, Pastor, how do you help that heart to, like get out? Because many of us are holding on to that.
Yeah.
We are very good, giving out to people.
Yeah.
But we go back like musicians do. I always tell people musicians are very good at going to sing.
Yes.
In fact, we have a program here called the Sunday Rise Show. which is which focus on worship leaders.
Yeah.
We've
And
had
some people in my house are preparing for that.
Yes. We've had top worship leaders from top churches, which names we're not going to pronounce. We're like doctors, we keep secret of people.
Yes.
And they have come here and they have broken. I says, okay, so when we see you on Sunday, you are really giving us this, you're singing, we're everything. But they resent back.
Yes.
When the door closes back, they're in pain, told, dark, bleak reality of things that they're hurting so much.
Yeah.
So when I realized where they're coming from, we said, come here, you're going to be the presenter of a thing, outgrow your pain.
Yeah.
And you still see it living in them.
Yeah.
So in that context, Pastor, there are musicians make us happy, worship leaders make us happy, we sing their music, then you go back like Michael Jackson and you die with so much pain.
Yeah.
How do we help these brothers and sisters of ours who have gone through that real part? Because that moment where Sylvain says, you can cane me for whatever you want, if it makes you happy, but you're not solving the problem. In other words, he said, what you've planted in the heart of that child is going to last forever. Yes. How do we get out of it?
The reality is we do make choices. He chose to harden because I'm not fully sure whether he was innocent.
That's very true, yeah.
I'm not fully sure that he was as innocent as his age.
Yes.
There are some things that we do wrong, even at age 12. And discipline is not pleasing at such a time as that. And unfortunately, with the father who probably only knew how to beat as bring you to education, could have done that. So there's error on both sides. But having been hardened in our hearts, of course, Ezekiel tells us, let God remove the hardened heart. And I think that's why it says he got born again. Something happened to him. Now, in life, unfortunately, people choose drinking or other habits, drugs, or simply ninjaing on to try and numb that. They've watched many Schwarzenegger movies, which last for 2 hours, and they try to live 20 years the way Schwarzenegger lives in 2 hours. No, there's going to be a problem. And that's why I said, don't waste your pain. Come to the place where you say, you know what, this is a real thing that hurt me. Let's see how we get rid of it. And then begin to take positive action countering that. All right? So you may not say, go back. I mean, you want to be like, if your father hurt you, he abused you, rejected you, you don't say equal and opposite. No, you simply say, okay, fine, I appreciate that. Whatever mistakes, whatever was driving you, you could have been drunk, you could have been frustrated, you spoke out of that. But I'm not going to relate with you based on the frustration. I'm going to relate with you based on what is the right thing. What is the truth? What is best? And I will forgive you. I may not be able to garner all the emotions of father and son, because sometimes that's the other deception that we have. I haven't grown up with you. I've not connected with you. I will not necessarily be as excited as the person who has not grown up with you. Calling you daddy is simply a title, like I call doctor. Okay, because I need to. But there are doctors you go to because you're friends, you've played with them and the rest. You've been with them in a gym. When you call them doctor, it's more than just...
It's not necessarily they're the best doctors who are going to treat them.
So there's something, there's a connection that exists there. So you want to, how do you rebuild this connection? Sometimes the season for that has passed. Now the issue is, what are the new positive things we can do? You're not looking for a name. You're not looking for affirmation. You're no longer looking for school fees. Okay? You're no longer looking for a father to teach you how to cross the road. Things have passed. So now you must say, okay, what is the next major thing? Are there other offended people? Are there things that we must do? How do we settle this? So settling doesn't mean that you go back, sit in his, I mean, you may not be able to go to his home all every Christmas. Maybe give him a Christmas treat. Do something that, and more so you do this to release your heart from that callousness, that hardness that covers past underneath. You want the past to come out. You want to remove the jiggers. I think Ugandans are more knowledgeable on jiggers. Remove the jigger, so the itching and the irritation is dealt with on a permanent basis. So don't live and don't excuse yourself on a mad end. I was hurt recently when I was talking to a gentleman who is considering leaving his wife and 2 sons, and one of the things is saying, you know, yeah, I don't understand her, I think we cannot make it out, and yeah, you see, this is also what happened to my father, I think I'm dealing with something. And I'm saying, your father grew up without a mobile phone and all these different things. He was not as educated as you are. Why do you simply want to excuse yourself on the basis of what your father did? Let's change the narrative. Let's change the story. And again, that's why I tell people, you know, sometimes we want to change government, and we do. All things to change government. Yet our home government
is not changing.
We are the dictators and need to be thrown out. Okay? We are the dictators, all right? And we are acting so with such impunity. Because I think there's a Ugandan was working in the impunity and the rest. Guys, don't lead your family. Don't relate with your children with impunity. You are lawless. Let's get back and say what are the natural laws? Natural law is I need to learn to say sorry. I need to be positive. I need to get back, to mend the fences, and I need to build something better. Yeah, like if you don't till your ground to sow something, the rain which came today will simply be
wasted.
Yes. Well, this is the Family Talk Show, and we have finally come to the end of this show, and I would like to say thank you very much to everyone who's joined us. But first, Sylvain, in a summary, seconds, what would be our take home from you today?
Well, my statement would be that life is going to happen. And sometimes, if not most of the times, you don't determine what happens to you. The beauty is that you have the conscience to determine how to respond. And how you respond is dependent and based on the life you want to live going forward. So if you fall in a situation like we've been talking about, finding yourself you don't have the father or the father figure in your life, or you realize that's not your father after some time, you've got to put your act together and say, what am I looking out for? Because whether you work on it or not, God is not going to change the number of hours in a day. They remain 24. And you have got 12 for the day, 12 for the night. Along the way, you can have excuses, but they still remain your excuses. Somebody else is going to hold you to account, especially your child is going to hold you to account. Unless you say, because of what I've seen growing up, I don't want to give birth to a child to hurt him or her. Maybe. But if you know that you're biologically sound, you're going to give birth to a child and he or she will not be comfortable with the excuses you produce. So make up your mind, seek God, have the purpose, and do the right. Besides, you have got an experience that you can turn around, and life in front is a lot better when you choose to work on it.
Wow. Pastor Joshua Martin Mugabe?
I'm reminded, I think CNN used to boast on that if you watch it, you'll be the first one to know. And I think they used to have that phrase, be the first. I think be the first, so be the first to know. And many of us want to be first in life. And maybe you were never first in class, and you'll never be first in class. You'll never be the first lady, you'll never be the first person in the nation or anywhere. But in your life, you can be the first. In your family, you can be the first to forgive, to live the hardened heart. You can be the first to graduate. You can be the first to be a millionaire. You can be the first. There are many first opportunities in your family that you can aspire to, but don't even just blame your father. No, be the first. learn the principles of how do we move from A to B to C and pursue them with all your heart and be the first in that family. I know. Was it John Speak, whatever, who was the first to see River Nile? The first human being. You can be the first.
John Speak. Well, guys, we're going to bring Family Talk Show to an end. Thank you very much for being part of the show, Growing Big and Better. I just want you to do one thing for yourself. Please go and subscribe there and share this as far as possible with whoever you think needs it, starting from you. If you don't share it, then it is not going to get to where you want it to be. And you never know, you might be standing in between something that is going to get the person out of the trouble that they're in and something that is going to deliver that person from where they are back to where they didn't want to be. So please share it far and wide. And I would like to say thank you very much, Pastor Joshua Martin Mugabe, for coming to the show today. And Mr. Sylvain, until next week, the Family Talk Show will return on the same series of lesson learned from our fathers. And of course, we've been talking about if you just wake up today and you are told this is not your father, how do you deal with emotions? You've learned from Sylvain's story here, and we've learned from another story that was sent to us before, and we'll be coming back next week with another story that will continue this discussion. For the next 2 weeks, we'll be learning from fathers before we shift gears to the next. Of course, we're hoping to see Hassan Sekajolo back on the show with his dislocated shoulder. We hope that he will learn how to ride boda very well. And we pray and hope that Hassan, you get better and be back on the show. We're enjoying the story that you brought. We're enjoying the topic. And until next week, shout out to all of you guys in the diaspora and everyone who is in and around the coronavirus situation. Stay safe. The world can make money from you and your family if you are not careful. It's a good night or good morning. All over you, the Family Talk Show, we call it a wrap.
It's a CEO bench, so usually people want to assume that all CEOs are over-learned and stuff like that. So I will change the script this time around. I consider myself a certified hustler.
If I'm looking to know who you are you Ugandan? If yes,
about the shots.
What are the values that define you as Ugandan? Did you discuss
That's the easiest question I think to answer. I am a typical Lao man from a rooted north in a place called Ogur. and where I will be laid to rest is in a village called
to
Agwen.
go.
So if you go there and you just say Otoa Tony, they won't really know me because my father is also Otoa Tony. You have to ask for Junior, and when you're asking, you have to ask with an accent. Junior Tikwene, where is Junior? And they will identify me. But I'm typically Ugandan, only Ugandan, from Lira. I pride myself from being from Lira. Earlier on, I was joking and saying I'm the coolest Lago south of Karuma. When you cross Karuma, there are so many. But when you're down in the south after Karuma, I think I'm number one.
Wow. Well, now that you know Tony Otoa is Ugandan, and of course, what are the values that define you as a Ugandan?
I think it's the love for country, love for nation. You know, truth be told, the country is in a lot of, it's a crisis. Leadership crisis, economic crisis, social crisis. There's so many mismatching areas. But at the end of the day, it's home. You know, you cannot run and abandon your home because of the issues in your home. I think that then creates an opportunity for you to do something to change what's happening and what you see as a crisis. So in terms of what I see as a value, or what I take out of that for me, I think it's just the love for country, the need to serve country the best way I can. And I mean, I can't say I can change everything, but the little I can do to create a difference, I think is more meaningful.
Wow. Mr. Tony Otoa, growing up, what did you want to be in life? And what was the journey like for Mr. Otoa?
Yeah, you know, my father is crazy. My father would call us and he would show me the compass. The idea was supposed to be a pilot. You know, the planes would fly over our house and my father would be like, yeah, you're going to be a pilot. But of course, as you grow, you realize that you have so many things that really define you. I was never a sportsman. So I enjoyed a lot of debate and, you know, a lot of indoor activities. And that is, I think, what really drove me into some of the things that I do up to today. Public speaking, the love for debates and really a lot of intellectual discourse and all this stuff. But besides that, I think it's also the fact that I won't lie, I didn't know what I wanted to be.
Completely disconnect VPN. Welcome to the CEO Bench, ladies and gentlemen from all across the world. My name is Eddie Okila, and of course the CEO Bench exists to bring you the stories of people who are on the top, doing it on the top, leading on the top, people who have been through change management, and of course are transforming lives, and they have transformed their own personal lives to reach there, as well as those who are headed to the top. What are their stories? What have they been through? What can we learn from them? Do they have some really interesting experiences to share with us? Yes, they do. And of course, on the CEO Bench this week, this morning, or this evening, or this afternoon, depending on which part of the world you are located, is the one and only the man who needs no introduction. The African youngest man on planet Earth that is doing great and amazing stuff. Been over to the creative industry, done that, is now thinking for different businesses at different levels. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my guest this morning, Bedford Buyungo, aka Professor in the Making. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Great to have you on the show this morning.
Thank you so much.
How have you been?
I'm great.
You have been overwhelmingly nominated to come back to the CEO Bench. Would you like to tell us why would these people overwhelmingly nominate you by over 30 votes to come back to the CEO Bench, yet you have been on the CEO Bench before?
I wouldn't know, but I appreciate them. They are in a better position to let you know. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Bedford, we want to just go straight to our interview this morning. And of course, I want you to just share with us a few of, you know, the things, the journey, and of course, what you have been through and what you're still going through as a person on the top. The CEO Bench is a very interesting, you know, place to be. Mm-hmm. We look at things from a different perspective, and I want to just give you a small background to what the CEO Bench is about. Mm-hmm. One, we focused on individual people who are leaders and in position of leadership.
Yeah.
The program, of course, is focused on discussion about leadership, change management, and transformation, both at individual level and as well as the corporation levels where you are, as well as the community where you live, and the nation where you lead or where you reside. All of us are leaders in our nations, but people often think that only people who are defined by political boundaries are the ones who are leading. But all of us are leaders at our levels, and it's important that we keep reminding people that even as a border man on the streets of Kampala or in the streets of any streets of the city anywhere in Africa, you are a leader, because the things you're doing at that level is leadership. How you change your life from a border person to becoming a taxi driver, to becoming a bus driver, to becoming a pilot is what we're calling change management at that level. But also, if you're moving from being a creative person at your level to becoming a creative thinker, to becoming a strategist, to becoming a research and developer person, and for being that person that think for brands and think for businesses and create things, that's change management.
True.
When we're looking at transformation, we look at the foray of moving from this one space to the next space, to the next space is key for us going forward. And that is what the CEO bench exists for. And so this morning, I want to ask you this question which I've asked you before.
Yeah.
If I am looking for a small and fast and quick definition of who Bedford Buyungo is, what would be your definition of who you are?
First, I identify as a Pan-Africanist who has passion for research and development.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm an entrepreneur, and I think in there has many things. When you talk about Pan-Africanism, it means you're pro-Africa, you're pro-African progress. When you talk about research and development, it has an element of research, it has an element of development, developing products or brands or whatever field you're applying R&D. And when you talk about entrepreneurship, still it speaks to something. And there is reason why those three things. There is reason for Pan-Africanism, there is reason for R&D, there is reason for entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And for me, it is that I as a Pan-Africanist, I was like, the only way we can progress Africa is probably through the element of economics. So, yes, I know other elements work hand in hand, but yes, we've tried politics and people have played us. We've tried all other elements, even donor, funding, and we've not gotten to places we've gotten to. So I was like, why don't I get this craft, R&D craft, and be able now to birth products. Of course, with my marketing and brand knowledge, to birth brands from end to end and go compete in the world.
Yeah.
And I saw that as an opportunity to birth brands and compete on the global stage.
Yeah.
Like Andrew Garcia says, he said that Africa needs needs trade, not aid.
Yeah.
So when you say Africa needs trade, not aid, it means that you need to put something on the table for the people to buy. There is a lot of things that work for you to be able to sell in the States, for you to be able to sell in Asia, for you to be able. But thank God that every region of the world, God has put something unique. So the avocado that I'm going to sell from Uganda is not the same as the one that someone I'm going to compete with from Asia has. So in a nutshell, and I'm reminding people who get confused of who I am, that I'm simple, a Pan-Africanist who has a passion for research and development and entrepreneurship.
Wow. Well, you now know more about Bedford Buyungo. He's more of a professor than just a simple man you know. Of course, if all the professors were as simple as him in their making, I think would go far. And of course, the last time he was here, he said that, I am a self-proclaimed professor, and of course you can see from there that you don't have to have a definition beyond the boundaries to understand what he has just said and to believe with him. But I would like to welcome you to the CEO bench, and I would like to encourage you today to make this program as interactive as possible. Share with us what your comments are and even your kisses and disses. When we say kisses and disses, I mean, tell us we're doing very good. We will be able to take that feedback. And if you think we're not doing very well, tell us what you would want to see. And the CEO bench is here to make sure that you actually have that information. And now straight to our discussion, Bedford. I just want to take you through to a couple of things that people have been talking about.
Yeah.
You have been the newest CEO on the bench of your company. And by definition of a CEO is not just that you have too many. We often believe that to be at a CEO bench, you need to have many layers of system put in place or structures that put in place. And I'm saying, yes, that's true, but what about the CEO who still starts the company from scratch, gets it to a certain level, and start to cross the boundaries? And moving to continents. And when you cross to the continent, you of course fully now become the CEO definition we're looking for. And you've been doing this from the Saint Africa. We've seen the brand cross the borders and become something of a development. You're working on another brand called the Voyage Africa, if I get the name very right.
African
Voyage,
yeah.
Which is the boat
building
company. And the thinking is great. The motivation is great. We just want to start from there. Where do you draw your motivation to think like this from?
I partly tackled that in the first question. There's something called vision, and I think I talked about it last time we were here.
Yeah.
Once you have a vision, then your picture is about 70% clear. The 30% I'll leave it to God.
Yeah.
So when you have a clear picture, then the Mzungu or the white man says the end justifies the means. When I want to go to Kampala and I'm using public means, I behave differently from the man who is using public means from Kampala to Masaka. One is going far, one is going near. And by default, when you're seated in a taxi and you're going to Ntinda, the normal saying is Momasao. So you know that it's close, but because you're very clear of where you're going, your behavior follows automatically. It means I don't need to greet my neighbor because soon it's going to be the posture even changes.
Yeah.
When I'm, for example, at the front seat, I'm looking around, and soon I say, conductor, Masao. But the guy going to Masaka or Kigali using Masaka Road, by default, the posture is going to change. The first thing you do is, how are you, because anything can happen along the way. So the vision is very important, and my vision is deeply linked to where Africa is going. And no one has come out to tell us about where Africa is going. The 54 countries have not sat, or African Union, and probably made it clear that Africa needs to be this, Africa needs to be that by this time. It might be there, big documents, but not in one statement that Africa needs to be this. So many of us Pan-Africanists, the doers, the talkers, the many Pan-Africanists, or people who are pro-Africa, everyone has their contribution to African progress. Now mine is deeply linked to African economic, African progress. And since I come from the brand world, marketing world, I decided that I will champion the global brands that are coming from Africa. I know many people have gone before me, but mine is to contribute to many African brands and see them compete globally. Because I know when the African brands are competing globally, that means jobs, that means many things. And that means good life, good health, many things.
Wow.
Yeah.
Bedford, a lot of the nomination that came this time around to bring you back to the CEO bench were a number of people who started their companies. From the data we're seeing at the CEO bench here, a number of people who started their companies, and just in 2019, some of them had great aspirations.
Yeah.
They had moved out from their jobs and started something else, and they were doing really great, and they had plans. The visions were clear, the missions were clear, and then the pandemic came from nowhere, and it is accounted for to have started somewhere in China, and nobody saw it making its way in January or by December 2019 and January 2020, it arrived here. Most of us were expecting it to be here a little bit much later because China is really far away from Africa.
Yeah.
But it made its way here quite faster and quicker.
Yeah.
And a lot of these companies, a lot of these individuals that started these companies, that moved from their former employment to start these companies, are now facing a big challenge of even extinction and slipping back to employment. Some of them are really running mad, and I'm talking about guys who started the company by employing from 10 to 15 to 20. I met one of them yesterday that says he employs 45 people from when he started, and now he's going to have to cut down everyone because the vision is not going where it's supposed to be. Pandemic has happened.
Yeah.
How do we help such fellows move forward? How have you been able to do it? Because you've been in the same space. Almost around the same time is when the Saint Africa comes.
True.
And it rolls out and it's working. What would be the best advice to give from the background perspective of a marketer, brand developer, an advertiser, and now an entrepreneur, as well as a Pan-Africanist who is thinking from a different perspective altogether?
Yeah. Thank you so much for that question, and for the people who nominated me along those lines. It's sad what is happening and what is going on in the world, then Africa, and of course our country. It is sad, and no one saw this coming. But even in what I call such career, there is always a blessing. So I'll start by encouraging these people to accept that the foundations are shaken.
Yeah.
You did mention around 29 people had started business. I think we were online in 2020. Saint Africa started selling globally in 2020. And so the first thing is to accept. So acceptance really takes you far. It means it's going to manage your posture. It's going to influence your posture towards the issues. And I did, when you told me about this, I did write something. Probably that's the reason you call me professor. Yes, it's an interview, but I take the opportunity to teach, and I'm not a professor that has been awarded a degree, and it's just a nickname. So, like I said, the first thing, and our viewers can even get pen and paper, and then we write a few things down to guide us. So I did write 11 points on how to maneuver. I don't know if we have the time to, but I'll be fast. And feel free to interject, and we'll make it interactive, enjoyable, and quite something for our viewers. So like I said, mine was to first accept that the foundations are shaken, because now that is going to help you measure, where the cracks are. But if you sail through and like nothing is happening, then you have a problem. It's like an ostrich buried their head in the sun and think the whole body is not being seen, but you know, the whole of the body is on the other side.
Yeah.
So point number 2 is to by not making things worse, is to act.
Okay.
To apply action, to act. And first we said that you accept, and then now we are saying you act. Of course, businesses have different challenges. Like your friend you talked about has 45 guys. He has to think about how to survive the 45 guys, how to lay off the 45 guys. He has different challenges, but it's not just 45. It's the rent, it's the many things. Yeah. So the thing is to act. Act. If you have a rent, then you need to write to the landlord. Is to act. And pick yourself up, be strong. I know where strength is going to come, because it's hard to tell someone who's lost even friends and family to be strong. But we need to be strong for each other. And part of why we're even spending this time is to help our friends be strong.
Yeah.
Is to help them, strengthen their resolve in them, making a way through this pandemic.
Yeah.
So the point number 3 that I wrote is dealing with reality, not fiction.
Wow.
You get what I mean?
Yes.
So reality, I talked about in a previous point about when you're talking about rent, for example, that's the reality. Yeah. You probably rent an office of, say, $1 million Uganda shillings, and yes, you need to deal with that reality. You need to write to your employees, to the landlord. That's the action we talked about. Yeah. But the reality is not dealing with fiction, what people are saying, what you had the other side. You analyze and then you act.
Yeah. Wow.
The other day, I think I was seen on social media walking,
yes.
But I wasn't walking for fun.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I wasn't walking for fun. I had a deal.
The business.
I had a business in town.
Yes.
And someone was paying some money for me to do something, and I was like, okay,
you can't drive?
I can't drive because I'm not amongst essential workers, and I didn't have a bicycle. So I was like, and in Entebbe, I thought about where to buy a bicycle. Probably I thought they would be more expensive. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to walk. So I prepared that night, ate fruits, did all what I thought would take me through the 42 kilometers, and I walked. So as people are enjoying my walking moment, because I shared it on social media, internally I knew that I'm going to finish something. So that way, I managed to walk and get to Kampala after 4.5 hours, and I was able to meet my client and then go through that.
So it was actually walking for you to go
to do business.
To do business.
Yeah.
Now, I just want to just hold it right there, and I want to interject from that point. Many of us, when we become CEOs, or by CEOs, I mean Chief Executive Officer. It means that there are smaller other executive people under you here that runs probably finance, human resource, administration, that runs marketing here.
Yes.
But you are now the chief, because you are now looking at things from a visionary point of view, directional point of view, and finding the pathways for us to get there and solving the problem that the team here not. So one of them is to get business and to connect business to them. Then they can do the business. That's the CEO we're looking for.
Definitely.
Yeah. So at that level, and we learned this from a business development manager called Dr. Jinfo Olo.
Yes.
Talked about it on the show here. And we learned something from there, that at that level you're focusing on strategic partnerships and direction.
Yes.
Now, many CEOs at that level can't sit on borders,
yes.
don't want to walk on the road,
and when they can't move, when there's no vehicle, they're always driven.
Yeah.
But yet we saw you here with Saint Africa. I don't know whether Ugandans and many Africans actually understand or been to that website to see what Saint Africa is really putting out there. But when we see you walking from there 42 kilometers to Kampala, and we're enjoying the walk, and you are coming to meet another CEO who is giving you business, and when I learned of the business volume that you are picking from this CEO and going, it was such a very, I would say, mind-boggling situation.
Yeah.
To see how when we rise to a certain level, we can't come down.
Yeah.
What informed your decision to do that?
It's still, I was looking at the business, and I'm like, of course I couldn't send anyone.
They are also in lockdown.
They are also in lockdown, but also I was meeting the CEO, so he needed to be at that level. So he's like, are you able to make it? And I'm like, yes, I'm able to make it. I didn't tell him how. So I started working, and for me it was what I'm winning for the rest of the company. And of course, when I win that, I win it on behalf of the rest. So it is always on behalf of the rest. I'll go the extra mile.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. We want to take a break, Bedford, and when we come back, you'll pick it up from point number 4, which is the reality. We're learning from the CEO and as well as the business proprietor, the founder, and you nominated him to come to the show. He has 11 points so far, 3 knocked down, and I think that 1, think about it, if I'm not mistaken. Number 2, take action. Number 3, look at the reality. All right, we'll be right back after the break.
Fitness Junction would love to thank you for your continued support and patience during these trying times. With the ongoing pandemic, we have come up with different standards of operation that can keep you safe and keep us safe. Come have a quick tour with me.
it's a CEO bench, so usually people want to assume that all CEOs are overlearned and stuff like that. So I will change the script this time round. I consider myself a certified hustler.
If I'm looking to know who you are you Ugandan? If yes, what are the values that define you as Ugandan?
That's the easiest question, I think, to answer. I am a typical Lao man from Erute North, in a place called Ogur, and where I will be laid to rest is in a village called Agweng. So if you go there and you just say Otoa Tony, they won't really know me because my father is also Otoa Tony. You have to ask for Junior, and when you're asking, you have to ask with an accent. Junior Tikwene, where is Junior? And they will identify me. But I'm typically Ugandan, only Ugandan, from Lira. I pride myself from being from Lira. Earlier on, I was joking and saying I'm the coolest Lago south of Karuma. When you cross Karuma, there are so many. But when you're down the south after Karuma, I think I'm number one.
Wow. Well, now that you know Tonyo Toa is Ugandan, and of course, what are the values that define you as a Ugandan?
I think it's the love for country, love for nation. You know, truth be told, the country is in a lot of, it's a crisis. Leadership crisis, economic crisis, social crisis. There's so many mismatching areas. But at the end of the day, it's home. You know, you cannot run and abandon your home because of the issues in your home. I think that then creates an opportunity for you to do something to change what's happening and what you see as a crisis. So in terms of what I see as a value, or what I take out of that for me, I think is just the love for country, the need to serve country the best way I can. And I mean, I can't say I can change everything, but the little I can do to create a difference, I think is more meaningful.
Wow. Mr. Tonyo Toa, growing up, welcome back to the CEO Bench. This is the CEO Bench, where you get to interact with those who have done it, those who are doing it, and those who are on the top. And of course, on the program this morning, we have Bedford Buyungo back on the program, nominated with 30 votes. And the biggest number of votes was, can you bring back that gentleman to the show so that we can get a lot more from him about how do we navigate the situation in this pandemic situation that we're having right now. And I know that every CEO out there is hiring a strategist right now to play around things. The board members are meeting, the board of different corporations are meeting to say, how do we navigate the situation about the COVID-19? Welcome to the program. Back to the program, Bedford Buyungo.
Thank you so much.
I just want to take you straight to point number 3 before I interjected you were on point number 3 of the 11 points of how we can bounce back and how we can navigate situation as from the CEO perspective, but also from the strategist perspective, from the man with thinking for the brands. And I wouldn't want to mention the name of some of the brands that you are actually looking after right now, but I'll leave that to you right now. So please pick it up from there.
Thank you so much for welcoming me back to the show, and thanks for the viewers and the people who nominated me. And I think we were going through these points as a way of helping each other strengthen our souls, strengthen our resolve, strengthen many things that can help us. We just, you and I, and probably everyone who works at HTV, are just adding a brick on people's businesses. True. And we're glad we have the opportunity to share. We're glad we have the opportunity to give. And in giving, we hope that we will receive. Yes. So, So the fourth point that I do write is cementing a relationship with our existing customers, or what other people call clients. So HTV has clients. Uganda Airlines has clients. Killer Sports Fitness has clients. And of course, we know who our clients are. Saying Africa has a database of people who buy globally. Cementing a relationship is deeply rooted in something called care. In such a place, such a time as this, everyone would know, does Okila Fitness really care about me, or they care about my
my
shilling.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so it is also a beautiful time to, even for brands and businesses, to spend even something small, you know, on their clients.
Yeah.
It could be a mask, it could be sanitizer. Like a saying goes, no one wants to know how much we know until they know how much we care. So such a time as this is one time to show care, to show love. So my point was cementing a relationship with the clients. It means that are you going to have to sit down and you know, and analyze and say, okay, I have 30 clients. You might not, you know, gift them all of them, but at least you can place a call and say, how you doing? Sorry about the loss I had, things like that, and people will remember you all their lives because you cared when everything was low. So it is important, and I use the word, it's such a beautiful time, because when everything is well, the noise is too much. But when there is a problem, when there is a catastrophe, a pandemic, people are closed in and people are seated at home. They don't know what to do. They don't know their next step. They don't know where they're going to get the next meal. So the people are very sensitive. They are listening. Their heart is listening. Their mind is listening. Every being of their body is very active and sensitive. It can easily make them cry. It can also easily make them happy. It's something small. So that's why it is easy, and okay, I won't use that example. It might bring issues, but I think you get the point.
Yes. I want to just ask you a little bit there, Bedford. You said we need to show people that we care. The brands need to show people that care. You know, if you're a CEO and your brand is, your product is interacting with people, you need to show them that you care. Many a times, the brands are also struggling.
Yeah.
How do the customers show them that they care about the brand, that they've been supplying them with products, as well as how do the brands, you know, care about the, you know, the clients who are cutting down on their consumption because they have to make certain choices that are brought about or imposed by the pandemic that has come and said, you know, like cut my consumption of this product from here, which means the brand is going to lose. And the brand is also saying, but I'm losing. So there's a, how do you deal with that from a strategy point of view? You think for businesses, your business as a CEO is for thinking for other businesses. How do you deal with that complexity and the situation as such?
You're talking about budgets, I guess. Something close to budget.
Yeah, not even budget, just only, I mean, like, how do you touch a heart of a person who is cutting away from you, who is not consuming your product anymore?
Okay.